has skyrocketed. It has become the most important project. The construction of the lunar base is imperative. Chapter 65 without a moment's pause. The next topic is the lunar base plan. After 2024, the global situation will undergo significant changes. The world has announced a move towards multipolarity. Among them, the major powers, our nation, and another country are undoubtedly the three poles on Earth. Such a scene resembles the situation in the late Eastern Han period, with the three kingdoms dividing the world. One country has been expelled from East Asia, but it was once a world hegemon, and it still possesses strength, easily taking over Western Europe. Another country is holding East Europe, while our nation dominates East Asia. The situation of the three poles in the world has officially formed. And clearly, this is far from over. After all, the period of growth for our nation has only just begun. Half a month after the peace talks concluded, on January 16th, during the orderly implementation of the plans for the restoration of a certain region and the military presence on another island, another major event occurred. On a certain platform, our nation's space agency released an exciting announcement. Shocking announcement. We will establish a preliminary lunar base within 6 months. As soon as this news broke, it temporarily overshadowed other information. After all, compared to humanity's endless internal strife, establishing a base on the moon is an achievement that everyone can take pride in and empathize with. If successful, this country will become the first to establish a lunar base. This is the best proof of technological strength. 6 months? Isn't that a bit too rushed? No need to worry. We have already successfully landed on the moon, and the reliability of the spacecraft has been fully validated. That's right. There's absolutely no need for concern. What I'm more curious about is whether we can have a live broadcast from the moon. Wow, what a great idea. Can we really have a lunar live broadcast? Please. Sigh. Don't get your hopes up. We don't even have live broadcasts from the space station yet, and you're dreaming of a lunar broadcast. That's just wishful thinking. Under a certain post, as soon as the news was released, thousands of people flooded in within seconds. It's ridiculous. Do these people live online? People were discussing this news enthusiastically. This is the first step for humanity to set up a base beyond Earth. The significance of this is extraordinary. It's even more important than the first moon landing. Moreover, this action perfectly corroborates what was said during the first manned moon landing. Comrades, we will move towards the universe from here. The moon is the stronghold for humanity's journey into space. This country remains steadfast. A gentleman's word is hard to retract. We mean what we say? I said we would set off for the universe from here, and look, within a year, we have put forward the plan to build a lunar base. No exaggeration at all. This is also why all netizens are so excited. At this moment, people couldn't help but recall that old newspaper. Countries around the world were eager to make bold statements in the field of aerospace. But when the time came and they looked back, it turned out that only this country had truly made solid progress. It's all bluster from the others. It's precisely because of this history of not exaggerating that everyone following the news is filled with anticipation. 6 months for a lunar base. Beneath the base, the centrifuge was continuously spinning. Fong Jing sat in the fixed chair, feeling the world spinning around him, yet remained unfazed. After long periods of rigorous training, he had become a qualified astronaut. 8G, very good. Uncle Yang nodded repeatedly, timing it, and immediately pressed the switch to stop the centrifuge. After a moment of recovery, Fong Jing stepped out of the training area. Xiao Fong, well done. Your performance has met the astronaut standards. Uncle Yang solemnly patted Fong Jing on the shoulder, then picked up a pen and marked a tick on the last item of his score sheet. Based on his current performance, Fong Jing was already capable of manned flights. I owe it all to your help, Uncle Yang. Fong Jing exhaled, feeling uplifted. What he said was true. It was precisely because of Uncle Yang's strict requirements that he achieved such results. All right, kid, there's one more piece of good news for you. The lunar base project is now on track and will be completed in 6 months. Just keep up with your daily training. The first mission carries a certain level of risk and requires experienced individuals, so it's not time for Fong Jing yet. Therefore, he'll have to wait a while longer. 6 months. Fong Jing couldn't help but smile, feeling a surge of excitement at the thought of what important tasks he might be assigned. He would definitely not hold back when the time comes. Sometimes, he really envies you little guys. Uncle Yang noticed the excitement in Fong Jing's eyes, and at the same time, he felt a twinge of bitterness in his heart. But it was just for a moment. He quickly buried any unnecessary emotions deep within. In this life, he had already achieved great success. And while he was incredibly eager about space, the organization wouldn't let him take risks for his safety. Don't worry, Uncle Yang. When going to space becomes as easy as taking an elevator, you'll see that you can even catch a glimpse of it. Fong Jing noticed the loneliness in Uncle Yang's eyes and chuckled, feeling no worries at all. Once they had deep cooperation with the Wandering Earth project, with Class A and Class B technologies opened up, the space elevator would be built. If Uncle Yang wanted to go to space, wouldn't that be a matter of minutes? You're quite optimistic. Haha. I hope I can live to see that day. Uncle Yang chuckled, all his emotions fading away. He simply looked at Fong Jing, silently saluted, and said softly, the aerospace mission of our country is entrusted to you. What? My task is just to live stream all the way. In the conference room, Fong Jing stared wide-eyed at the weary Zhu Jincheng in front of him. As soon as Zhu Jincheng arrived at the Xishan base, he gathered the personnel from the 237 project and seriously assigned Fong Jing an important responsibility, live streaming the entire journey to the lunar base. Indeed, this is to prepare for our country to expand its global influence. Zhu Jinsheng said with a light smile, pulling out a smartphone from his pocket. After unlocking the screen, he handed it to Fang Jing. Fang Jing took the phone and looked down, raising an eyebrow. Jianshu? On the phone screen, there was only one app, with an icon depicting an arc cutting through the sky, and below it were the two characters Jinsu. What is this? Fang Jing asked, puzzled, as he opened the app. This is a social community application we launched for global users, called Jianshu. Zhu Jinsheng casually poured himself a cup of tea and took a small sip. A larger version of Twitter? Fang Jing raised an eyebrow but then skeptically said, but how do we attract global users to download it? Also, how will we address local server issues? He had already guessed the purpose of launching the Jianshu app. It was meant to break the Western monopoly on public opinion. In the past, whenever they posted something on the enemy's platform, even a single positive comment about their country would lead to censorship and removal. Propaganda work on the enemy's platform was simply impossible to carry out. Now, this country has started to pay attention to this area, and the first thought is to establish its own platform. However, how to attract users and how to set up local servers have become the key issues. After all, the opposition won't just sit back and watch you seize their influence. They are not foolish. Who says servers must be on the ground? This is easy to solve. Zhu Jinsheng pointed to the sky, a confident smile on his face. Let's set up the servers in space. Fang Jing's eyes widened, and his mouth dropped open. He suddenly remembered that in the technology library of the Wandering Earth, there is technology to enhance communications. So, this is definitely not a problem. Chapter 66. Military Stationing Ceremony. Seeing Fang Jing's shocked reaction, Zhu Jinsheng chuckled a few times and then added, if they agree, we can build the local servers within their territory. If they don't agree, then we'll just set them up in space. If they can manage their territory, can they manage space? Saying this, Zhu Jinsheng smirked. The researcher who thought of this idea is truly a genius. But what about the users? Having solved the first question, Fang Jing instinctively asked about the users, but as soon as he spoke, he realized something and exclaimed, so, you want me to live stream the entire moon landing? Haha, looks like you figured it out. Zhu Jinsheng laughed and confidently said, that's right. We'll create a sensation with an unprecedented live broadcast of entering the lunar base. And it will be exclusively on our platform, which will surely boost user numbers dramatically. Moreover, our platform has advantages that no other similar software can compare with. At this point, Zhu Jinsheng wore a knowing expression, leaving Fang Jing curious. What is it? Fang Jing's curiosity was piqued, feeling an itch in his heart. Hey, did you forget about the simultaneous interpretation technology one specifically asked you to develop? Zhu Jinsheng smiled mysteriously, his dark eyes deep and wise like the starry sky. Do you mean? Fang Jing suddenly realized, wow, this is going to be something big. We have integrated simultaneous interpretation technology with real-time translation and embedded it into our platform's core server. Zhu Jinsheng calmly explained, on our platform, we can achieve indiscriminate real-time translation of all human languages. In the future, people from different countries, speaking different languages and cultures, can chat and even video call without any barriers. Our platform will be a truly cross-national, cross-cultural, and cross-linguistic communication platform. With the AI technology from the Wandering Earth world combined with simultaneous interpretation technology, the power is simply immense. In the future, our platform will become an essential software for every Earthling with a smartphone. It is this feature that fills Zhu Jinsheng with confidence. Little Fang. Zhu Jinsheng squinted his eyes and smiled kindly at Fang Jing, who was still in shock. Your live broadcast from the moon will utilize all these technologies, and the whole world will be watching it. So your task is not easy. Fang Jing realized the gravity of the situation. This was an important part of the nation's external promotion, and it was indeed more complex than he had initially thought. Acknowledging the significance, he nodded earnestly and replied, don't worry, Zhu Lao, I promise to complete the mission. Good, as long as you understand. Next, we will start the promotion. While you are training, pay close attention. Zhu Jinsheng advised seriously. Be mindful of any reactions from that machine in your consciousness after the astronauts settle into the moon base. I understand. Fang Jing nodded firmly. It was finally time to clarify the reason behind that machine's role in establishing a base on the moon. The plan was undoubtedly going to be implemented. With the simultaneous interpretation technology from the film The Wandering Earth, this plan faced no difficulties. In the past, the narrative dominance of a certain country in the Western world relied on powerful media and promotional tactics to create a hegemony of public opinion. What power does this hegemony hold? For example, during World War II, both the nation and the neighboring country suffered the most significant losses. However, under the operation of that country's propaganda machine, only they were shrouded in glory. It seemed as if the contributions of the nation and the neighboring country were merely insignificant. Moreover, there was the portrayal of certain groups. Although many from those groups were killed during the war, did militarism only target them? Did the nation not suffer? Did the neighboring country not suffer? Did South Asia not suffer? Why is it that when discussing the nation's harm during World War II, the first thought for most countries around the world is about them? This is the power of narrative hegemony, concealing your achievements, amplifying your threats, and turning black into white. Now, the nation has dismantled military hegemony and myths, and the time has come to challenge the hegemony of public opinion. The plan is an essential part of this effort. Previously, platforms were controlled by the Western world, allowing them to slander the nation and others at will. Can you imagine? Most people from that country still perceive the nation's people as the caricatured characters from animated films, ugly, poor, humble, living on the edge of survival. Therefore, what the nation needs to do is to start anew and create a platform controlled by itself. It must let the world hear the voice of the great Eastern nation, not just the West. On January 15th, the military ceremony for the Kyushu Island, prepared for half a month, officially began. For the neighboring country, the nation adopted a strong approach to contain it. First, it involved countering militarism internally with stationed troops. Then, it sought to unify the northern region and gradually develop it. The northern region and the neighboring country would form a strategic balance against each other in Northeast Asia. Plus, with a strong ally in East Asia, the neighboring country would be thoroughly suppressed in Northeast Asia and would never be able to rise again. The military ceremony on Kyushu Island officially commenced. The recent military ceremony was broadcasted live to the entire world. On December 25th, the forces followed their counterparts to launch an attack on our coastal areas, attempting to eliminate our navy and humiliate our people. This reflects the militaristic spirit that, after 70 years, has yet to be eradicated. A naval rear admiral, dressed in solemn military attire, stood at the site of the military base, gazing at the distant crowd filled with hatred and anger, showing no sign of fear. Anger? Hatred? What did our ancestors face? More intense than anger. More fervent than hatred, death, despair, and screams. These are the crimes committed by the previous generation. Now, they simply brush off the past with a couple of sentences, claiming it's not their concern anymore. Who can accept that? We will never accept it. That is why we are here. The rear admiral looked at the gathering crowd, their eyes filled with the grievances and discontent of victims, feeling disgust and anger in his heart. They have forgotten. They have forgotten the suffering they caused us and now live in peace. Seeing this, the admiral's gaze grew resolute. He looked at the engineering team and the excited soldiers, shouting loudly, "Now the time has come. It is time for these individuals to remember what they did over 70 years ago. It is time for them to understand why we have come. It is time for them to pay for their past madness and recklessness. Raise the flag." The admiral's voice roared from his throat. His face turned red, filled with excitement and glory. Honk! In the distance, the ship's horns echoed in response. A blood-red flag slowly rose above the base, fluttering in the wind, illuminated by the golden rays of the setting sun, standing proudly on this land. Chapter 67. The Lunar Base Cavern Plan. The admiral's voice was filled with emotion and anger. His speech was complete. The flag was now flying high. Cheers erupted from the young soldiers below, filled with excitement. This nation has never publicly apologized for its past crimes. It remains a thorn buried in the hearts of all our people. The shock of the German president kneeling was a significant moment for the world to reinterpret Germany. But this nation has not. They have committed even more heinous crimes than Germany, never offering a public apology, even attempting to bury this history like an ostrich. This is absolutely unforgivable. They have always known but pretended not to. Now, we have arrived. Our troops have arrived. The admiral raised his hand, bringing the crowd to silence, and continued to proclaim, "I announce, now, in front of the world's media, the military base on the island officially established." Boom, boom. The engineering team immediately began the final assembly work of the base. The sound of roaring vibrations and excited cheers, accompanied by the enthusiastic shouts of the young men. Each strike lands on the soil of the island, boosting morale immensely. Surrounding this scene, the local populace feels helpless and angry. They gather to protest, wanting the government to reject the military presence of a certain Eastern nation here. Until now, they still believe they are innocent, thinking they are being bullied and oppressed. However, their anger and outrage are baseless. Whether in terms of morality, history, or military strength, they lack the foundation to stand on. In the distance, across the sea, all eyes are on the aircraft carrier of the Eastern nation, where fighter jets take off and fly straight over the island. The engines of the aircraft roar thunderously, instantly clearing the minds of the gathered locals. Nearby, a reporter from the Eastern nation, Hua Yiming, keenly switches the live broadcast camera to the faces of the locals. Almost instantaneously, the barrage of comments in the live stream skyrockets. Look at these expressions, as if they've just eaten something unpleasant. Hilarious. Did you see that old man in the middle? He looked fierce just now, as if he wanted to eat someone, but when the planes flew low, he turned meek. It's truly amusing. They fear power, but not virtue. This is how they operate. They need to be subdued and kept in check. Eating, sleeping, and keeping the locals in line. This bunch of rascals makes it seem like we are the bullies. It's infuriating. It's so satisfying to see them in such a predicament. I'm enjoying it immensely. In the live stream, comments expressing satisfaction flood the screen. It's incredibly relieving. The general in charge of the station troops feels a sense of comfort. Previously, their provocations were mostly threats due to the issues with their backers. Now, not only can they take direct action, but they also have established a military base. The key is, throughout the entire conflict, there were basically no casualties. Oh no, there were some injuries. It's said that a young recruit from the Marine Corps twisted his foot while trying to take down a flag. What a disgrace. The whole company is laughing at him. Once the situation stabilizes, there will be no more obstacles in our way. Muttering softly, the general gazes out at the distant sea. With a complex expression in his eyes, after watching the surface of the sea for a while, his gaze gradually shifts upwards, ultimately resting on the vast blue sky. He stares for a long moment before continuing in an apologetic tone. Teacher, I'm sorry, but we may not be able to accomplish the task of building the world's strongest navy. At this point, he looks towards the sky with a sharp gaze. Like a blade. Before continuing, our journey lies in another vast ocean. The general, named Zhang Zhong, is part of the navy. After hosting the groundbreaking ceremony for the base on the island, he immediately boarded a plane back to his homeland. The plane lands in the northwest, at the Jiuquan Training Center. This is the place where the nation's space program takes off, home to the largest astronaut training base in the country. In front of the training base, Yang Wei is waiting at the entrance. General Yang, thank you for your hard work. Zhang Zhong smiles and shakes hands with Yang Wei in surprise. General Zhang, you're too polite. You're the busy one. Let's hurry. The meeting has already started inside. Yang Wei gestures to guide Zhang Zhong to the door of the conference room. Director Zhu personally instructed us to quickly present the plan for the Space Force and begin training the relevant talents. When Uncle Yang said this, there was a strong sense of confusion in his eyes. He didn't understand. Does the nation have such a military branch? Even if we were to establish a Space Force, why train a large number of soldiers? Just look at the space forces of other nations, who starts by training soldiers to go to space. Isn't it just launching a couple of satellites? Haha, General Yang, you have to properly train the group of Navy boys I've brought. General Zhang also played the riddle master. He noticed the confusion in Yang Wei's eyes, but did not explain, instead revealing a mysterious smile. Don't worry. I will train them well. Yang Wei's skills in training astronauts have greatly improved. The reason is that he spent several months at the Xishan base, managing to train an ordinary person into a standard astronaut. The experience he gained is simply overwhelming. That's good, we've arrived. Zhang Zhong squinted and smiled, immediately pushing open the large door to the conference room. As the door swings open, Yang Wei's eyes widen in shock and disbelief upon seeing the inside of the conference room. The reason is clear. On the large screen, there are several giant Chinese characters reading seminar on the validation of lunar orbital space maneuvering forces and base construction from the Space Agency's Lunar Base Construction Verification Team. Zhang Xiaoming rubs his temples, watching the two people in front of him argue. The two individuals are aerospace expert Li Duan and aerospace engineering expert Wang Ming. Their debate centers around the construction model for the lunar base. We need to complete the lunar base within 6 months. Building directly on the moon's surface is undoubtedly the best option. Constructing the modules on Earth is much simpler and faster. Wang Ming supports the plan to build the base directly on the moon's surface. Li Duan counters, if we only build on the moon's surface, even tiny meteoroids in space pose a threat. Most of our research work will be conducted beneath the lunar surface. Constructing on the moon's surface is entirely unnecessary. He pulls out a detection map from a folder and excitedly places it in front of Zhang Xiaoming. Gesturing animatedly, the manned lunar landing left a probe that discovered a huge underground cavern in the Ural crater. This cavern is extremely sturdy, and we can definitely build the base inside the lunar cavern. Building directly in the lunar cave with the help of robots, 6 months is more than enough. Most importantly, Director, this cavern is rich in helium-3. In an excited moment, Li Duan picked up a detection chart filled with red and green colors. On the chart, amidst a sea of green, there was a cave represented in red. Li Duan pointed at the red area, almost sputtering with excitement. This is tritium. The concentration of tritium in this cave is astonishing. Tritium, a perfect material for controlled nuclear fusion. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaoming's eyes suddenly sparkled with brilliance. If a lunar base could be constructed in this cave, it would be a perfect 2-for-1 deal without wasting any time. This is something that can be done. Chapter 68. The benefits of war, like oil gushing from the ground. Time flew by quickly, and the entire month passed in an instant. Now, the situation on Earth has completely changed due to the previous war. The Western world had to face reality. They could no longer hinder the Eastern power. Even a major power had been defeated. Consequently, various countries began to lift trade restrictions on the Eastern nation. In fact, very few people knew that the Eastern nation was now the advocate of international free trade. Before the war, the entire Western world had gradually begun to follow trade protectionism. Thus, this war was humorously dubbed by netizens from the Eastern nation as the cannon that broke open the Western world's isolationist doors. One Eastern nation exclaimed, "Open the doors. Free trade." Oil prices have dropped to $3, but everyone is switching to electric vehicles, laughing and crying at the same time. Speaking of which, I can directly use local currency to shop in Europe now. It's seamless. Ha ha ha. That's right. All coastal factories have begun to upgrade, and our industry is advancing. As someone in mechanical design, my salary has increased 5 times in a row. It feels amazing. Our company has moved to the Far East. Wow. We have been given full rights to develop the region, and the underground resources are truly abundant. We've struck it rich. Is this the benefit of war? I'm in love with it. The real economy has exploded. Ha ha. Capital is voting with its feet, and many companies from a certain major power have started relocating here. Labor associations are being reorganized, and big changes are underway. This war is not just about altering the landscape. As East Asia comes under the dominance of the Eastern power, the entire region of Malacca is shifting. An endless supply of raw materials, continuous orders, and a flow of wealth are all converging towards the Eastern nation. Hot money, investments, and orders are propelling the country's industry to stride confidently towards high-end development. Countless job opportunities are sprouting up like mushrooms after rain. With this progress, all previously existing problems have become non-issues. However, The trouble is that some workers in low-end, labor-intensive industries are lagging behind in knowledge and skills. As a result, night schools and adult education centers have re-emerged. Want a better job? Looking for a higher salary? Join the government-run night schools and vocational training programs. A new world, new jobs, and higher incomes require more specialized and extensive knowledge. The new world is advancing towards us at a rapid pace. In mid-February, the Space Agency announced the specific plan for the lunar base. The Lunar Cave Base plan previously released by Harbin Institute of Technology passed 3 assessments and officially won the bid. This marks the official start of the manned lunar landing program. At the press conference, facing a sea of reporters, Zhang Xiaoming spoke confidently. We have discovered a huge cave near the landing site of the lunar spacecraft, which is the foundation for the implementation of this plan. After launching the Lunar Orbital Space Station, we will use a ground-penetrating missile to blast an opening above the cave. Then, we will use robots to clear the cave and the entrance. Finally, we will complete the construction and installation of the base module. When it came to the final step, Zhang Xiaoming smiled gently at the somewhat excited reporters and slowly revealed shocking information to all of them. Moreover, once the first batch of astronauts settles in, we will arrange a live broadcast of the entire process for the second batch of astronauts. Specific information will be released on our official website. Live broadcast of the entire process. The sharp reporters quickly seized upon the key words of the statement. Their fingers moved swiftly, immediately releasing the news. Official announcement. The second batch of astronauts entering the lunar base will have the entire process live-streamed. The news of live streaming the entire process of entering the lunar base sparked another heated discussion. After all, the live streaming of the space station had not even started yet. Now, they were going to live stream the entry into the lunar base directly. This was a huge leap. The space agency was stepping up and starting to engage with the public, live streaming the entry into the lunar base. Incredible. Where will it be streamed? It seems to be on that platform we established ourselves, something like Jianshu. Jianshu? Wow, Jianshu is amazing. I checked it out and found it can translate in real time, allowing seamless communication with my bilingual wife. Wake up upstairs. Where did you get your bilingual wife from? Establishing a lunar base. The launch of the project reignited the emotions of the people in the Eastern nation. In simple terms, it's been reignited. Over the past few months, the entire Eastern nation has made various operations that are truly astonishing, like a leap forward. First, they successfully landed on the moon before others in a direct confrontation. Then, they faced pressure but ended up delivering a strong response. Now, they are taking it a step further by establishing a lunar base. At this moment, the citizens of the nation share a common feeling. The lighthouse has been extinguished, and the sun is shining brightly over the world. Their era has officially arrived. In the underground section of the Xishan base, Fang Jing officially registered an account on Jianshu, adding a note. I am a reporter live streaming the entire process at the lunar base. Next, I will lead everyone to explore the entire process of astronauts settling on the moon. Please take care of me. After completing these tasks, he immediately tossed his phone onto the bed and walked out of his dormitory. In the underground training ground, Zhao Guangyao was training with Zhou Yuan. Zhao Guangyao may be an officer, but his skills are certainly not inferior to Zhou Yuan's. The speed at which he handles the firearm is so swift that his hands leave a blur, even faster than Zhou Yuan. Oh, here comes Fang Jing. Just as Fang Jing arrives, their match comes to an end. Zhao Guangyao and Zhou Yuan greet him with smiles and waves. Brother Zhou. I'm here for the routine data exchange with the Wandering Earth universe. Fang Jing responds with a smile. Great. Thank you for your help, they say, patting Fang Jing's shoulder firmly in affirmation, then laughing boastfully. Leave everything else to us. Everything. Fang Jing, now free, smirks mischievously, ready to tease them. Absolutely. Zhao Guangyao puffs out his chest, full of confidence. And what about the wife? As he says this, Fang Jing shrugs his shoulders, a bigger grin spreading across his face. Ahem. Zhao Guangyao, initially confident, realizes the significance of Project 237. Even if Fang Jing wanted to use an advanced fighter jet as a decoration, it wouldn't be a problem. However, he never expected Fang Jing would throw a curveball. Huh, wife? I haven't even gotten one yet. Fang Jing chuckles, and Zhao Guangyao understands the joke, thinking, what a clever kid, trying to pull one over on us. But he adds, we can organize a large matchmaking event for you. Just casually bring in a few thousand people. What do you think? They're bound to be someone you like. The women at Xishan base are quite gentle. Gentle? Fang Jing recalls a woman in powered armor who had taken down a bear with a single punch and shivers. Imagining that scene, he quickly waves his hands and awkwardly laughs. No, Brother Zhao, just kidding. I need to go. The data exchange is important. With that, he makes a swift exit. As he runs, Fang Jing can't help but think, Brother Zhao is indeed a seasoned veteran. I still have a lot to learn. He wanted to see Zhao's panicked reaction, but ended up being the one caught off guard. Better get back to work. He chuckles to himself. Behind him, Zhou Yuan, with his booming voice, laughs unabashedly. Chapter 69. Testing and the industrial mother machine. Fang Jing's current job is quite simple. He occasionally travels back to connect with the data on Class C technology. Zhou is truly a person of great ambition and capability. He has kept his promise and sent scientists to help the local nation better assimilate Class C technology. Now, this nation has already absorbed 30% of the Class C technology. And this 30% has brought an earth-shattering shock to the scientists at the military academy. No, Earth-shattering is just one way to describe it. Devastatingly transformative would not be an exaggeration. Now, the scientists responsible for studying this technology at the military academy have no doubt about the extraterrestrial relics unearthed by the nation. Some scientists even tried various ways to contact Mr. Zhu to inquire about joining the reverse research on alien technology. In response, Mr. Zhu only smiled and remained silent. His thoughts were simple. Those scientists he could inform were all loyal and could be gradually evaluated for entry into the 237 program. However, being able to enter did not mean they should rush to accept them. The confidentiality level of the 237 program was now the highest. No accidents were allowed to happen. In the disinfection room, Fong Jing finished the disinfection, took the box filled with storage disks, and then connected his consciousness to the machine in his mind. In an instant, he disappeared from the spot. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a familiar room. However, this time, something felt off. There was no liaison on duty in the room, and Fong Jing felt a slight tremor in the ground. What was going on? Frowning, Fong Jing felt a bit uneasy. What had happened here? Tap, tap, tap. The next moment, a series of footsteps came from outside the door. Fong Jing focused all his attention on the machine in his mind. If there was danger, he would not hesitate to traverse back to his original universe. Creak. The door was suddenly flung open. Fong Jing focused his gaze, and his pupils contracted sharply. Don't be nervous, Xiao Fong, it's me. Entering was Zhou Weirong. Someone he knew well. He was fully clad in exoskeleton armor, with thick bulletproof plating on his chest, showing splattered melted bullet marks. The glass on his helmet was shattered, with faint traces of blood attached to it. A chilling aura accompanied him as he stepped through the doorway. Seeing Fong Jing, Zhou Weirong's fierce expression softened. What happened outside? Fong Jing, relieved to see Zhou Weirong enter and toss aside his gun, quickly inquired. Rebels attacked our base for some reason, and you arrived just in time. We just eliminated them. Slowly removing his exoskeleton, Zhou Weirong limped to the table, gestured, and smiled. We've already sorted out the remaining technology of the Class C 7-axis high-precision CNC machine. As he spoke, he took out a black briefcase from the safe under the table and handed it to Fong Jing. Brother Zhou, is your leg okay? Fong Jing looked at Zhou Weirong with concern. Brother, your right leg is bleeding. It's nothing. I almost got hit by an aerial bomb when I was blasted away. Luckily, the exoskeleton had a cushioning device. Waving his hand, Zhou Weirong indicated to Fong Jing not to worry. Aerial bomb. But Fong Jing couldn't relax at all. That was an aerial bomb. Brother Zhou, since it's just a matter of data transfer now, you should go get treated. I won't disturb you. Fong Jing thought that with Zhou Weirong's personality, he wouldn't leave his post with him around, so he decisively took the briefcase and disappeared from the spot. Don't. Zhou Weirong opened his mouth, giving a helpless smile. However, the smile lasted only a second. The next moment, his expression turned fierce. Why did the rebels specifically attack here? They are either testing or have discovered something. In this universe, at the underground base in the Western Mountains, the first thing Fong Jing did upon returning was to inform Zhao Guangyao about what had just happened. Perhaps it was a test initiated by a certain organization. Zhao Guangyao immediately made a basic judgment on this. He looked at Fong Jing and said frankly, if this is aimed at you, you might be in serious trouble this time. The attackers at the base are capable of launching aerial bombs. Alright, Fong Jing, while it's still safe on the other side, go leave a note and come back immediately. The situation was urgent, and Zhao Guangyao made a prompt decision. Fong Jing quickly agreed and acted accordingly. The note was left for Zhou Zhizhong, and the content was very simple. This universe suspects that the organization is conducting a test on the 710 Research Institute, and for safety reasons, it has been decided to suspend exchanges in the coming months. In fact, one of the reasons Zhao Guangyao did this was out of concern for Fong Jing's safety. He decided to reassess the feasibility of entering the Wandering Earth universe after the lunar base plan was completed. If the lunar base plan goes smoothly, Fong Jing might even be able to open that so-called space gate. Then everything would be fine. At that time, this universe would definitely send personnel to create an absolutely safe zone for Fong Jing. Fong Jing left the note in the Wandering Earth universe and then returned immediately. Only after completing these tasks did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. Seeing Fong Jing return safely, Zhao Guangyao completely relaxed. Alright, I believe the other side can understand. During this period, let's focus on developing our basic industrial capabilities. Zhao Guangyao patted Fong Jing on the shoulder, noticing his hesitation, and offered some comfort. I know, Brother Zhao. Come on, the final part of the 7-axis high-precision CNC machine tool. Fong Jing exhaled. A smile appeared on his face, proudly raising the data box in his hand. The 7-axis high-precision laser-cutting CNC machine tool. This advanced technology had puzzled the military academy for 3 months without any solution, and it is absolutely fundamental to industrial capabilities. With help from the other side, after 3 months, finally, a new machine tool is about to be unveiled. Zhao Guangyao was also extremely delighted. The machine tool, known as the mother machine of industry, is the foundation of everything. The technology received earlier was based on the original productivity of the nation, and with a little push, it could be overclocked to produce results. However, to digest the contents of C-level technology, high-precision machine tools are fundamental. Moreover, this 7-axis high-precision laser-cutting multifunctional machine tool is key to advancing to A and B level technologies. It is said that this machine tool has a very high sustained precision. Fong Jing, not very familiar with machine tools, asked this question. That's right. It is very high. Zhao Guangyao took a deep breath, solemnly accepted the small box, thought for a moment, and explained. The precision of this machine tool has reached the micron level. Let's put it this way. This machine tool has a stable light source and can even produce chips, making it undoubtedly a multifunctional player. This is why the military academy is determined to pursue this matter. This machine tool is the mother machine of the industrial rise of the nation. With it, there will be no issues in accepting Class C technology from the wandering Earth universe. In fact, even advancements to Class B or even Class A technology must start from this. The chip is produced. Fang Jing was shocked, his body leaning back slightly. This metaphor is striking, appropriate, and outrageous. However, it undoubtedly showcases the powerful capabilities of this machine tool. Simply put, its precision is unmatched in this universe. Chapter 70. Sadness. Do we really have to call it the moon's marvelous house? On February 4th, the Lunar Orbital Space Station was successfully launched in the South Sea, carrying 5 drilling missiles. The construction team successfully entered lunar orbit. Due to time constraints, the space station used high-power engines for maneuvering. It is expected to reach lunar orbit in a day and a half and commence operations to bombard the caverns. Meanwhile, the space agency is also soliciting names for the lunar base on their official website. The moon, a satellite that has held unique emotional significance for the nation throughout history, is finally set to welcome long-term human presence. As a result, netizens are very enthusiastic. The entire base is called Moon Palace. So can we freely name each building and vote? The rule is as follows. I'll start. The core module will be named Guanhan Palace. And anyone who disagrees can be thrown out. Ha ha ha, the person above is right. I can already predict the voting results. After all, I don't want our base to be called the Comical Shrimp No. Why do I feel like Comical Shrimp No doesn't sound too bad? Don't embarrass us. Now on the moon, we have the Jade Rabbit. We have Chang'e. What else is left? Wu Gang Osmanthus Tree? I think the planning area can be called Osmanthus Tree. Good meaning. Naming the lunar module. This novelty, for some people, even exceeds naming their own children. In no time, the excitement skyrocketed. Initially, the names suggested were quite conventional, like Wu Gang, Jade Rabbit, Guanhan Palace, and Osmanthus Tree. Everyone was relatively satisfied. However, when the number of participants increased, it inevitably led to some odd suggestions. Some names like Horizon, Outpost Base, and Watchtower were still acceptable. But the most ridiculous was the one genius who suggested the moon's marvelous house. Disney might want to charge you copyright fees. Even more outrageous, these netizens, who enjoy the drama, gave the moon's marvelous house quite a number of votes. It was simply unbearable to watch. Just imagine, in the future, when astronauts land on the moon and are on a mission, someone might say, South Sea, I am in the moon's marvelous house, preparing to exit the cabin. The scene would be one to laugh at. In the meeting room of the space agency, as they watched the rankings on the big screen, the name Moon's Marvelous House kept rising, leaving many scholars and experts in silence, unable to speak for a long time. This cannot continue. Director Zhang Xiaoming of the space agency paced back and forth, sighing repeatedly. He never expected such a situation to arise. What a strange name to have. And why did I end up at the moon's wonderful house? Which genius decided to put me up there? The key point is that the netizens are cheering. This ranking is skyrocketing like a rocket. What a disaster. How are we going to wrap this up now? Director, I have a plan. At this critical moment, the Minister of Publicity, Liu Xiefeng, stepped forward. He raised his head, determined to save the reputation of the lunar base. Let us hear it. Zhang Xiaoming, seeing someone stand up, looked at him with hope in his eyes. Liu Xiefeng smiled confidently, pointed to the data on the projection, and said, Director, look. The ones voting now are young people, and that's the reason for the rising data of the moon's wonderful house. But this time it's a nationwide vote. We can rally middle-aged and older netizens to vote. According to internet data, this group has very little voting willingness. Liu Xiefeng adjusted his glasses, his smile growing more confident. As soon as he finished, the entire conference room erupted in excitement. What a clever strategy. Director Zhang was overjoyed. This troublesome name collection activity finally has hope. Below the Xishan base, Fang Jing looked regretfully at the Aerospace Bureau's activity interface. Everyone clearly liked the moon's wonderful house, and it was nearly in third place. But for some reason, it suddenly lost momentum. Now it has dropped outside the top 20. I even cast a vote. What a pity. It's so interesting. Fang Jing shook his head, thinking that this name is indeed quite amusing. Xiaofang, are you ready? Zhao Guangyao greeted Fang Jing while adjusting his military uniform. Ready. Fang Jing, also in military attire, immediately turned off his phone and stood straight. All right, let us begin. Zhao Guangyao nodded, and, under the solemn gaze of Zhou Yuan, formally took out a small wooden box and handed over the shoulder insignia to Fang Jing with both hands. The solemn military music began to play. Zhao Guangyao personally helped Fang Jing put on the insignia. Fang Jing, congratulations. Wearing the insignia means that Fang Jing has officially been promoted to the rank of colonel. This is a decision made by Elder Zhu. Fang Jing's contributions during this time deserve this recognition. His efforts are evident to all. Additionally, as a lunar expedition member, he must have a certain status. Therefore, this ceremony is being held today. Don't worry, Brother Zhao. I will continue to work hard. Fang Jing was also very excited. Just yesterday, strictly speaking, he was still an army cadet, and now, in less than a day, he has been promoted to colonel. This is an honor, but also a responsibility. Your parents and family have been informed of this matter. The veterans are very happy and proud to hear about your significant contributions to the army. Zhao Guangyao felt proud of Fang Jing and was also proud of the changes happening outside, because he is also part of the 237 plan. Being able to contribute to this country is enough for Zhao Guangyao to feel proud. The family members are already aware. Fang Jing was stunned, and images of his father and the old man laughing heartily flashed through his mind. Indeed, you will soon be part of the personnel stationed at the lunar base. And this matter cannot be kept secret from anyone. Confidentiality is crucial for Fang Jing's safety. However, there are many ways to maintain confidentiality. By adopting a less obvious identity of lesser importance, not only can we keep it secret, but it can also serve as a form of misdirection. Killing two birds with one stone. From now on, just focus on your regular training. We will handle the rest. Zhao Guangyao laughed heartily, patted Fang Jing on the shoulder, and hurried off to attend to other matters. The lunar base plan has already begun. The lunar orbital space station is nearing the moon. The next moment is crucial. And he too has started to get busy. After all, it's no small feat to have someone with no prior experience included in the lunar landing team. Thus, time moved to the night of February 6th. The lunar orbital space station had reached lunar orbit. The military green-painted drilling missile had revealed its pointed tip, aimed directly at the entrance of the cavern identified in the Ural Basin. This blast marks the first shot of human civilization on an extraterrestrial satellite. The success of this missile is key to the smooth establishment of the lunar base. All the researchers involved in the lunar base project were focused on this very second. Chapter 71. The sky has cleared and the rain has stopped. Old me felt capable once again. In the South China Sea, the builder has reached its orbit, and the radar has scanned the impact point. The impact point is being confirmed. Will it be a hard rock layer? The target has been confirmed as a hard rock layer, and the verification is accurate. Launch. In the quietness of space, the space station orbiting the moon suddenly opened a circular hatch on the walls of its cabin. The military green drilling missile was abruptly ejected. It moved quickly, soon surpassing the position of the space station. Once at a safe distance, the drilling missile's engine roared to life. Flames spread out like a phoenix spreading its wings, propelling the missile into the lunar surface. A fleeting shadow passed by, and dust was kicked up on the moon's surface. After a while, a deep pit was left on the lunar surface. This pit was particularly striking. The space station immediately detached the landing module, released robots, and began cleanup operations around the cavern and nearby areas. The Aerospace Control Center, with a broad smile on Zhang Xiaoming's face, celebrated the success. The drilling missile had created a perfect pit. This laid a solid foundation for the lunar base. The rest would be a matter of routine. It can be said that the lunar base has already succeeded halfway. Now, it's just a matter of time. February passed quickly. The nation, benefiting from the war dividends, experienced unprecedented development. However, the most noteworthy event was the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology's renewed financing of Longxin and the secret dispatch of technical personnel to join the company. Although very few people were aware of these clandestine events. However, the performance and actions presented by Longxin Company at the end of the month directly ignited public opinion. Major announcement. The Ministry of Industry and Information Technology has collaborated with Longxin to develop an EUA lithography machine with precision reaching the 10 nanometers level. The Longxin EUA lithography machine has been finalized and will go into mass production next month. The chip shortage pain is finally resolved. Has another industrial breakthrough been achieved? The heart disease issue of domestic technology has finally been solved. Lithography machines. This has been a 20-year pain for the country's semiconductor technology. It is also a technology that was once heavily restricted and controlled. Now, it has surprisingly been overcome. Due to the numerous false messages about lithography machines in the past, when the news broke, people instinctively did not believe it. Just a few months ago, authoritative figures analyzed that the country would need at least 2 more years to break through lithography technology. Moreover, in those 2 years, the breakthrough would only be for the 28 nanometers process EUA lithography machine. Now, the shocking leap to a 10 nanometers process lithography machine suddenly occurred. How could this be possible? It's feared that this is just a gimmick. However, with the release of a photo, people suddenly realized that it was indeed true. The photo was taken at the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, in front of a container-sized lithography machine, where the big names from several major telecommunications and chip companies were standing together with smiles, pointing at the lithography machine. This represents a significant portion of the domestic semiconductor industry. Now that they have all gathered together, it can only mean that the news is real. The lithography machine technology has truly made a breakthrough. Wow, there have been so many good news recently. Ever since we returned from the far side of the moon, various technological breakthroughs have been emerging one after another. Reflecting on this, it's fantastic. Let us crush the competition. They dare to impose embargoes on us. This information came as a complete surprise to everyone. At the end of the last century, the prevailing notion was that it was better to buy chips than to make them, which was a significant reason for the later stagnation of the domestic semiconductor industry. It wasn't until a few years ago, when embargoes were imposed, that everyone with lingering hopes realized the weight of the concept of self-reliance. If you cannot achieve self-reliance, your entire industry can be paralyzed by just a piece of paper targeted by adversaries. However, at that time, the gap between the country and others was too large. The embargo on lithography machines even caused many domestic manufacturers to collapse. Fortunately, they persevered. Now, this news is a huge boost for the semiconductor industry. This time, the advantage is on our side. Just 5 days after the announcement, the latest chip was immediately released. Not only that, but because it is produced with our own lithography machine, after removing various costs, the prices of all products equipped with the new chip will drop by 10. This drop in price almost instantaneously overwhelmed similar foreign products. Faced with no other choice, they had to lower their prices as well. This is the advantage of domestic production. Once you have it, it will force foreign monopolistic manufacturers not to dare to raise prices due to production cuts, because the market is right there. If you cut production, your competitors will seize your market. This point is deeply felt by Chung Hua, who is currently purchasing a smartphone. He has witnessed how a phone he had his eye on dropped from $6,999 to $5,799 in just 1 hour. That's almost $1,000 off. It's evident how much those manufacturers have been overcharging. Moreover, it's said that domestic chips supporting AI computing power have made significant breakthroughs. Though it's hard to tell if that's true or not. Chung Hua clicked his tongue and sighed. It feels like a dream in the past 6 months. They are practically skyrocketing, taking off in a spiral. The technological advancements seem almost unreal. In a certain capital, a government office, Fred has not had a good time since the end of December, and now, seeing the information from a certain source, his expression has worsened. Almost gloomy enough to drip water. Varno sits across from him, equally stressed. Since their defeat and the shattering of their military myth, Western Europe has been increasingly dissatisfied, with some even stirring restlessly. Domestically, having lost 2 key regions, various conflicts have begun to erupt, making things exceedingly bothersome for them. We can't continue like this. We must regain a foothold in technology. Fred's voice is low, fists clenched, resembling an old lion driven from its den, gritting his teeth in frustration. General Varno, what progress have we made in electromagnetic pulse weapon defense research? He asks. Mr. President, with all due respect, according to reports from captured soldiers, the opponent's electromagnetic pulse weapons are simply from a different era, and our research has made no progress. No progress. Fred's eyes widen in fury. His hatred for this damn weapon intensifying. If it weren't for this weapon, the country would never have fallen from grace during his tenure. Clenching his fists tighter, he thinks. Their victory is solely due to this revolutionary weapon. Fred mutters, his gaze fierce, contemplating countermeasures. Suddenly, he catches a glimpse of a diversionary plan that was previously used the ITER nuclear fusion reactor. His eyes light up, and he exclaims excitedly, I've got it. If we can achieve controllable nuclear fusion ahead of time and rebind our currency to energy, the future will still belong to us. Quick, Varno, contact France. I want to invest heavily in ITER. I want to use revolutionary technology to defeat the Eastern powers again. Let's make our country great again. Chapter 72. What a sin. My lifelong reputation. In April, on a calm day, in a certain sea, storm number 9 looms high, attracting everyone's attention, ready for launch. After a month of intensive launches in March, the lunar cave base has been established. Now, it only awaits the arrival of astronauts. The base features a design partially submerged in the cave and partially exposed. The entire base is named Moon Palace, with the core module called Guanghan Palace, the plant module named Gui Tree, and the experimental module named Wugang. The lunar base, located on the surface of the moon, offers a breathtaking view of the vast blue planet above. This stunning sight can only be seen by a fortunate few, and among them is Fang Jing. He arrived at the aerospace base at the end of February, accompanied by Zhou Yuan, a reliable and somewhat naive giant. Together, they will settle in the lunar base to explore the mysteries of the machine there. You are in the next batch, Zhu Jingqing said, standing in front of Fang Jing, his eyes shining as he looked at the rocket towering on the launch pad in the distance. The next rocket will launch the day after tomorrow. Are you nervous? Xiao Fang. After a moment of gazing at the rocket, Zhu Jingqing turned to Fang Jing and chuckled softly. Of course I am nervous. It would be a lie to say I'm not, Fang Jing admitted, smiling broadly, a mix of tension and excitement evident in his expression. But more than that, I'm looking forward to it. It's the moon. I'm going to settle in the lunar base. Ha ha ha, what a pity that I'm getting old. Remember to go take a look for me and see just how beautiful the moon really is. Zhu Lao patted Fang Jing's hand, waving him goodbye with a serious expression. I'll be waiting for you on Earth. Goodbye, Zhu Lao. Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan saluted him and then stepped into the closed pressure chamber. They would acclimatize there for 2 days before heading directly to the moon by rocket. Upon entering the pressure chamber, Commander Zhai Gang welcomed them with a smile. Haha, my little comrades, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Zhai Gang had already been informed that Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan were on a secret mission, so he didn't question them further. He patted his chest and assured them, leave the spacecraft operations to me. I guarantee you'll arrive on the moon comfortably. Just like taking a plane. Zhai Gu, I'm counting on you. Fang Jing said, waving the live-streaming device in his hand with a grin. With Zhai Gang, the experienced pilot, at the helm, he felt completely at ease. All he needed to do was focus on his job of live streaming. As for Zhou Yuan, he could just be a quiet passenger this time, most likely enjoying the ride. Just relax. Zhai Gang patted his chest confidently. In the afternoon, the first batch of astronauts to the lunar base slowly ascended amidst cheers, disappearing into the sky. After a long journey of a day and a half, the spacecraft landed steadily in the Ural Basin. The 3 astronauts immediately exited the cabin and entered the lunar base to begin their cleaning work. While this was significant, What everyone was really looking forward to was the second batch of astronauts launching on April 5th, 2 days later. Why was everyone so excited? Because this time, the entire process would be live-streamed, and not just from the command center, but directly by the astronauts using handheld devices. The effect was something no one could resist. Fang Jing's account on the live-streaming platform had already released the streaming link. Once the link was shared, it attracted millions of viewers instantly. Today, the platform has gained global popularity due to its real-time, accurate translation capabilities, making it the top choice for social media users. Additionally, the recent live broadcast of a lunar mission has attracted not only locals, but also audiences from various countries around the world. Beep beep beep, if you can go live. Why is the screen still black? Wow, a live broadcast of the lunar mission, impressive. This is showcasing space technology. No, it's telecommunications we're talking about. Just wait for the host to start. This is the reality of the live broadcast. No visuals? It must be a scam. Is there really a full live stream? It can't be fake like those lunar photos from another country, can it? Come on, support from afar. We can't let the Eastern power take over the moon. May misfortune befall their spacecraft. You idiot upstairs, may you be punished. Look at your ID, you seem to be from there. I don't know if misfortune will punish me, but my electromagnetic pulse bomb will punish your naval fleet. Your aircraft carrier looks nice. It would make a great park. You, what do you mean? I even relieved myself on your aircraft carrier's deck. Come on, if you're so brave, tell them to come find me through the internet. In the live stream. As expected, many strange individuals quietly mixed in with the crowd. Fortunately, the audience from that country was quite supportive. Some people took on multiple challengers, effectively silencing them. The AI of the platform observed the situation and, seeing so many people attacking the provocateurs, decided not to kick anyone out for the moment. Only after everyone vented their frustrations did it finally intervene, kicking out the instigator. It was at this moment that the live stream visuals came on. The screen displayed the interior of the lunar spacecraft, directly facing the pilot. Hey, I'll tell you, piloting this spacecraft is no different from driving a tractor. Has the live stream started? After completing the necessary operations, the pilot handed control over to the central command and was chatting casually when he suddenly realized the broadcast had begun. His expression turned strange as he shot a glance at his co-pilot. Why didn't you say so earlier? Clearing his throat, he quickly switched topics. Only those who have been tempered through trials and have reached the peak of willpower can pilot the lunar spacecraft. Hey, stop pretending. Everyone heard what you said before. The co-pilot looked at the pilot, who had suddenly changed his demeanor, trying hard not to laugh, filled with mockery. Pilot, you made a classic blunder in the first second of the live stream. Not peeking at the space meme king. The pilot showed a disdainful expression. Enough of the nonsense. I'm seriously piloting a spacecraft. He waved his hand, signaling his co-pilot to quickly remove that unfortunate camera angle. This time, he had solidified his title as the king of space memes in front of the whole world. He has already anticipated that his classic quotes and actions are definitely circulating all over the internet now. A live broadcast accident. Purely a live broadcast accident. What a disaster. That rascal. Chapter 73. The anchor is single-handedly storming the moon. In the live broadcast room, indeed, a flurry of text flew across the screen. Although Zhai Gang changed the topic quickly, the netizens' ears were surprisingly sharp. It turns out that piloting a spaceship is as ridiculous as driving a tractor. Space tractor? Does the engine need to be hand-cranked? I don't know if the engine needs to be hand-cranked, but the hatch indeed needs to be manually operated. Haha. Truly the king of space memes, you made me laugh. It's actually Zhai Gang piloting the spaceship. Hey, why does the other astronaut look so unfamiliar? Also, who is the astronaut in the live broadcast? Returning to the previous message, the other one is an astronaut trained by the army. And the live broadcast is conducted by a payload specialist, while Brother Zhai is responsible for piloting the spaceship. Well-informed netizens have already grasped information about the second batch of lunar astronauts. Among them, Zhai Gang, as an experienced astronaut, serves as the commander, handling emergencies. Zhou Yuan, selected from the army, is responsible for crisis management. Fang Jing is a payload specialist, responsible for scientific research. Of course, the information about Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan is all fabricated. Nevertheless, this still sparked a heated discussion among the onlookers. After all, having one veteran leading two newcomers is quite rare. 1 minute to prepare. A clear command suddenly rang out, and the three chatting away in the spaceship cabin immediately fell silent. Zhai Gang noticed Fang Jing's nervousness, chuckled softly, and said, when I first rode a rocket, I was scared to death too. Don't worry, the launch is handled by the control center. You can wear blindfolds, just treat it as training. Close your eyes and open them, and you'll see space. Ahem. Fang Jing suddenly cleared his throat, wanting to remind Brother Zhai. My live broadcast equipment is still on. Brother Zhai opened his mouth, his eyes widening. What? That unfortunate thing is still on? I'm scared to death, I'm doomed. My lifelong reputation. Looking at Brother Zhai's shocked expression, Fang Jing just wanted to laugh. All nervousness was thrown out the window. As for Zhou Yuan, he was only excited, with fervor and enthusiasm practically bursting out of his eyes. Nervous? This guy probably doesn't even have that emotion. Zhou Yuan, I've walked through gunfire. What is there to be nervous about? 30 seconds. Hearing the 30-second countdown command, Brother Zhai, who was looking gloomy, immediately put on a textbook-style change of expression for Fang Jing. The goofy look of shock vanished in an instant, replaced by seriousness and solemnity. His eyes shone brightly as he focused on the control panel, meticulous, like a steadfast guard at the border. Fong Jing was momentarily stunned, but once he reacted, he perfectly captured this transformation on camera. At the same time, he smiled slightly. In the live broadcast room, the audience also noticed this instant change. Brother Zhai looks so cool. Usually, I chat with you casually, but when it comes to work, I'm super serious. This change is truly impressive. Just now, it was specifically to comfort the newcomers. The onlookers have realized that the senior was actually helping the newcomers relieve their psychological pressure. He transformed from a quirky and gentle uncle into a stern and solemn warrior in just an instant. This is what the astronauts from that country are like. Gentle with others, but strict and meticulous with their work. 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ignition. The rocket has launched. With a violent shake, Fong Jing felt as if something had crashed into his back. The massive Storm 9 shot straight into the clouds, like a giant sun rising by the sea, glowing and slowly disappearing into the horizon. In the cockpit, Fong Jing felt his blood flowing backward. Fortunately, he had undergone rigorous astronaut training and his body had adapted to this kind of pressure. He was even able to easily lift the camera and capture the curvature of the Earth visible outside the window. Before his eyes was the vast and magnificent land, along with the boundless blue sea in the distance. The clouds, dancing like colorful garments, lightly enveloped the sea, creating a dreamlike scene. It was so beautiful. Fong Jing was mesmerized, and so was Zhou Yuan. Although they had seen countless panoramic images of Earth online, anyone who sees this spectacular, dreamlike planet in person would be unable to contain their awe. This is their homeland. So beautiful, it is intoxicating. It will be even more spectacular soon. Brace for the shake. We are about to separate. At this moment, Zhai Gang's serious expression rarely broke into a smile. This panoramic view of Earth is truly astonishing every time you see it. Separation of the first and second stages. Sure enough, the commander immediately reported the next second. Fong Jing felt his entire body shake violently and then gradually stabilize. We are almost at the Karman line. Zhai Gang's voice relaxed as the second stage successfully ignited. They were about to enter space. We are floating up, entering space. Fong Jing immediately felt a lightness in his body, as if the shackles that had bound him were stripped away. The tether securing the camera beside him slowly began to float. The force of gravity was weakening. For the first time, Fong Jing experienced the sensation of leaving his home planet. It was a wonderful feeling that he couldn't quite describe. He simply felt a surge of pride from deep within as he gazed at the majestic Earth outside the window. Humanity, this fragile species, has actually managed to leave its home planet through its own efforts. The idea that humans can conquer nature, often deemed a fallacy by philosophers and scientists, flashed in Fong Jing's mind. Looking at the diminishing Earth, his home planet, he thought of wandering Earth and the dark universe. While the notion of conquering nature may be a fallacy, it also serves as a motivational symbol that inspires people to keep moving forward. Sitting in the lunar exploration spacecraft, Fong Jing felt that humanity has conquered the seas, conquered the skies, and one day, we will conquer the entire ocean of stars. We have entered space and are now approaching lunar orbit, expected to arrive in a day. Just as Fong Jing was lost in thought, Zhai Gu unbuckled his safety belt and woke him up. Now, we can move freely. Let us take a look at the beautiful scenery outside. Viewing Earth from space is astonishing no matter how many times you see it. That's right, Zhai Gu, no matter how many times, this beauty never gets old. Fong Jing also unbuckled his safety belt and let himself float around the cabin. For a moment, he completely forgot about his main job and was having a great time. In the live streaming room, watching the two newcomers float around, the audience was completely disengaged from the broadcast, and many were left speechless. Hey streamer, look at us. Are you ignoring the live stream? This is so interesting. I want to be an astronaut. Upstairs, Mom is so happy. She gave you a big kiss. The streamer is on a business trip to space. The streamer is making a solo entry onto the moon. Stop playing around. Pay attention to us. Chapter 74. No way, just arrived on the moon and already feeling dizzy? Time passes quickly in space. Fong Jing had a blast playing in the cabin, but finally remembered he had to stream, so he hurriedly followed Zhai Gu and introduced the entire cabin. One major advantage of live streaming in space is that Fong Jing doesn't have to think of ways to cater to the audience. Driven by curiosity, even if Fong Jing is just filming the Earth behind him, the audience won't feel the slightest bit bored. This is the charm of space. Few can resist such novelty. However, as Fong Jing got closer to the moon, his mood began to tense up. The previous batch of astronauts had already settled into the lunar base, but the machine in Fong Jing's consciousness had shown no signs of activity. Most likely, I would need to go to the moon myself. Fong Jing was resolute and no longer worried. After all, they were already on the way to the moon. Whether it's a horse or a mule, we'll know when we get there. He couldn't believe that an alien would jump out from underground. Fong Jing felt curious and highly anticipated. According to the think tank's predictions of the 237 plan, establishing a base on the moon could very well be the key to opening the spatial gateway. This possibility is the highest. If that is the case, then they could collaborate extensively with the world of the Wandering Earth. In the past, it was this universe that was benefiting from the technology of the Wandering Earth. The Wandering Earth universe had to comply with the demands of this universe. Was it because the Wandering Earth universe was naive? Clearly, that was impossible. The reason the Wandering Earth acted this way was that they needed something from this universe. What could this universe provide for them? Previously nothing. But once Fang Jing could open the spatial gateway, that would change. And it would be a tremendous help concerning the survival of the wandering Earth civilization. To put it simply, this universe can provide a vast amount of food and emergency supplies for the future of the wandering Earth. On a larger scale, if this universe develops, perhaps the humans from the wandering Earth could entirely migrate here, completely escaping the dangers of solar flares. However, at present, the second option still poses significant challenges. After all, the Earth in this universe cannot accommodate a population of 8 billion. Just imagine, doubling the population of a certain country. It's terrifying to think about. Helping each other is rooted in such hope. And the contribution of the wandering Earth to this universe is undoubtedly wholehearted. Essentially, whatever technology is needed will be provided. If the other party treats you sincerely, this universe will surely respond in kind. Fang Jing pointed the camera at the window, filming the approaching moon with excitement and anticipation in his eyes. Moon, here I come. The lunar spacecraft had already entered orbit. In a synchronous orbit around the moon, the spacecraft's speed was continuously decreasing. We are about to land. Everyone pay attention. Brother Zhai, seated in the commander's position, monitored the descent and autopilot data with utmost vigilance. This was a critical moment for landing, leaving no room for error. Module 2, understood. Safety lock has been secured. Module 3, understood. Safety lock has been secured. Nanhai, this is Lunar Module 3. Crew members are prepared. After Zhai Gang checked the landing procedures, he solemnly opened the communication channel. ZZZZ. Lunar Module 3, this is Nanhai. We have confirmed and are guiding the autopilot signal. Landing procedures initiated. Haha, buckle up. We're about to land. Zhai Gang smiled widely as he clearly delivered the instructions. As his voice rang out, the entire spacecraft suddenly swayed gently. The lunar spacecraft began to descend slowly. For the space agency, this process was already routine. However, for the viewers in the live broadcast, it was incredibly novel. It was their first time experiencing a moon landing from a first-person perspective. Ha ha ha. At this moment, I am an astronaut. So this is what it feels like to land on the moon. A bit shaky, and I can see the lunar surface. Success. Amazing. With a slight tremor, Fang Jing heard the announcement from the communicator. They had landed successfully. Fang Jing aimed the secured camera at the window, preparing to unbuckle his seatbelt. However, he suddenly felt something was off with his body. Why did he feel a bit dizzy? Fang Jing closed his eyes for a moment to collect himself. But when he opened them again, he suddenly felt the world spinning before him, and then everything went dark as he fainted. What he saw was a world of pitch darkness. In this realm, Fang Jing awakened in confusion. He couldn't distinguish front from back or left from right, and could only walk aimlessly in one direction. Something in that direction was drawing him closer, slowly approaching, slowly getting closer. Suddenly, a patch of bright red appeared ahead. Suddenly, a sharp sting hit his eyes. After adjusting to the light, Fang Jing's gaze brightened, and he couldn't wait to rush forward. That machine was glowing. A red light. It was exactly the same as the prompt Fang Jing received. When that machine in his consciousness emitted a red light, it meant the spatial door could be opened. But was that all it could do? Fang Jing felt a bit dissatisfied. He wanted to know why this machine appeared. Why it appeared. He ran desperately, wanting to reach the area of red light in this pitch-black space, wanting to take a closer look at that mysterious machine. Damn it. Why couldn't he get any closer? Fang Jing kept running. It was like running up a mountain only to find a horse dead. No matter what, he couldn't approach that red light. A buzzing sound filled his ears, and the red light in the distance slowly faded, losing its originally brilliant colors. Damn it. What was going on? The situation in front of him left Fang Jing puzzled. The red light gradually disappeared, turning into complete darkness. Then, Fang Jing suddenly coughed and woke up abruptly. As he woke, an extra consciousness appeared in his mind. Keep moving. Head to the orbit of Jupiter. Cough cough. He was awake. Fang Jing was awake. A joyful voice reached his ears, and Fang Jing opened his eyes wide. What met his eyes was a bright cabin, with Zhou Yuan beside him, looking at him with surprise as he regained consciousness. Zhaiga looked the same. Vital signs are normal. Fang Jing, are you okay? Why did you faint suddenly? Zhaiga looked at Fang Jing with concern. I'm fine, Fang Jing said, adjusting to the bright light before struggling to sit up, only to realize they had already arrived at the lunar base. How long was I unconscious? 1 hour. The lunar base has comprehensive medical facilities, so we carried you over. Zhou Yuan, relieved that Fang Jing was okay, exhaled and slightly raised his hand, then suddenly lowered it again. He had originally intended to pat Fang Jing on the shoulder. Brother Zhou, the results are out. Fang Jing exhaled and calmed his emotions, his tone filled with confusion, but more so with surprise. Chapter 75. So you two are here for a vacation. The results are out. Zhou Yuan's pupils constricted sharply. As a member of the 237 plan, he naturally understood the meaning of those words. He had thought that at least Fang Jing would have a reaction after entering the lunar base, but unexpectedly, as soon as they landed on the moon, Fang Jing already had results. Is your body okay? Zhou Yuan gently nodded, expressing concern for Fang Jing while also clarifying the nonsensical conversation they had earlier. After all, Zhai Gang was still present. It should be fine. Fang Jing wasn't sure either. He moved his body a bit, and didn't he understand why he had suddenly fainted? According to the Life Detection Center's data, there was nothing wrong with Fang Jing's body. At this moment, Zhai Gang spoke up. Although he felt that their earlier conversation had implications, he wisely chose not to ask. He just frowned, looking perplexed at the tablet in his hand, staring at the data without stopping. This is really strange. How could he be unconscious? Fang Jing. Since you are in a coma for unknown reasons, I don't mind you continuing with the lunar mission. Before the mission ends, I recommend that you stay in the base. This is Zhai Gang's sincere suggestion, and he also submitted the recommendation to the control center. Fang Jing understood Zhai Gang's intention. However, he felt somewhat regretful. After all, this was the moon. Now that he was here, it would be a shame not to take a look at the lunar surface. But for safety reasons, he had no other choice. In the command center, everyone was also assessing the situation. Unexplained fainting is fatal on the lunar surface. I do not recommend him leaving the lunar base alone. I agree with Zhai Gang's suggestion. That's right, I agree too. This person must be from the military, right? His health seems fine. Why don't we ask the military? 2 personnel from the military came in this time, so let's let them decide. That makes sense. We will contact them immediately. In the command center, the head of the space agency, Zhang Xiaoming, immediately called Old Zhu. Currently, Old Zhu represents the opinion of the entire military, so asking him is certainly the right choice. After informing Old Zhu of the situation, he remained silent, waiting for Old Zhu's opinion. Connect the communication to Fang Jing. I'll ask for his opinion. Yes, Old Zhu, I will connect him right away. Zhang Xiaoming immediately complied, connecting the communication signal and informing Fang Jing that Old Zhu was looking for him. Old Zhu? To be honest, Fang Jing felt a bit dejected at the moment. The science center here recommends that you do not leave the base cabin. What do you think? Old Zhu's voice was very gentle, maintaining the kind demeanor he had before, giving a sense of comfort. The command center's suggestion is very scientific. Their recommendation is rational and scientific, but your choice leans more towards emotional? Old Zhu sensed the faint disappointment in Fang Jing's tone and smiled slightly. Yes. Fang Jing scratched his head, feeling a bit awkward as his thoughts were exposed. After all, under these circumstances, it was impossible for him to be allowed out of the cabin. It's okay. As a result, after a pause, Old Zhu unexpectedly asked, do you want to go out and take a look? After all, it's the moon. Hearing Old Zhu's pointed question, Fang Jing swallowed hard and answered without hesitation. Of course I want to. Come on, it's the moon. Who wouldn't want to go out and see it? All right. With Fang Jing's anticipation, Old Zhu paused for a moment and then chuckled softly. In that case, the space mission originally assigned to Zhou Yuan is directly cancelled. Let him accompany you outside. Consider it a benefit for you. It's settled then, Xiao Zhang. You must have heard that. Zhang Xiaoming felt a bit troubled. After all, sending 2 people up for a tour without a reasonable explanation would be difficult for him to justify. It's fine. This decision is mine, and I take responsibility. If there are any objections, let them come to me. Old Zhu waved his hand decisively, his tone incredibly firm. That young man, Xiao Fang, is very perceptive and has a broad vision, contributing so much. What's the problem with taking care of him? There is no problem at all. If you have objections, then you should also make such a significant contribution. Let me tell you quietly, just the battery technology, and for civilian use, has already brought in 200 billion in revenue in the first 2 months of the year. And this was achieved despite the limited production capacity of the battery production lines. If this type of battery becomes widely available, the value will be unimaginable. Just for this contribution, what is wrong with him taking a public-funded trip? Besides, he has tasks to complete. Yes, I understand. I will arrange for Zhou Yuan to be responsible for Fang Jing's safety. Zhang Xiaoming let out a breath and nodded immediately. Zhu Lao listened intently the whole time, especially that line. I'm in charge. If there are objections, let them come to me. That was simply powerful. Hearing this, Fang Jing felt a touch of emotion in his heart, a sense of being recognized for his efforts. No need to say much. Just think of it as Zhou Yuan accompanying you on a trip to the moon, and you can come back whenever you want. Just let me know. Zhu Lao didn't let Fang Jing continue. He couldn't stand words of gratitude. His whole life has been dedicated to serving the country and the people. Is what Fang Jing is doing for the country and the people? Undoubtedly, it absolutely is. Since that is the case, he must protect Fang Jing. Fang Jing nodded heavily. All right, take care of your health. After a few kind reminders, like a gentle old man from the same village, Zhu Lao hung up the phone. Fang Jing let out a heavy sigh on the fixed bed of the medical pod. I've received orders from the command center, Zhou Yuan. At this moment, a look of confusion flashed across Zhai Gang's face, and then he said to Zhou Yuan seriously, from now on, you will be responsible for Fang Jing's safety and accompany him. You can exit the pod at any time. Yes, when Zhou Yuan is serious, his military demeanor is vividly displayed. He immediately accepted the order. All right, I will proceed with the research work on the moon's surface next. You all can do as you wish. This is what puzzled Zhai Gang. The command center gave the order for free movement. When this order was issued, he was dumbfounded. What does free movement mean? So these 2 are here for a trip to the moon, right? Brother Zhai, I'm sorry for dragging everyone down with the research tasks. Fang Jing smiled helplessly. No worries, as astronauts. To put it simply, we are all in the same boat. In space, we need to trust each other more than anyone else and unite more than anyone else. Zhai Gang waved his hand, signaling Fang Jing not to mind. And your momentary helplessness is just a fleeting moment. Looking at the subtle excitement on Fang Jing's face, Zhai Gang thought to himself, I really envy you guys who are here for a trip. Unlike us, we still have to work and conduct experiments. What a struggle. Then Brother Zhai? We're heading out. Fang Jing couldn't wait any longer, but Brother Zhai was still there. Ahem, tone it down a bit. Go ahead. With Zhou Yuan by his side, Zhai Gang no longer worried about Fang Jing's safety. He waved his hand and said, "Go ahead. Go and see the beauty of the moon." Chapter 76 Little ones, get ready to sweat. On the desolate lunar surface, Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan left the lunar base. Both donned their space suits and drove the lunar rover to an excellent vantage point in the Ural Basin. This spot was perfect for capturing images of Earth. The entire planet was just right for the frame. The vibrant blue sphere was breathtaking, making it feel as if it was pressing down upon them, an incredibly shocking sight. Fang Jing stood there, gazing upward for a few seconds, utterly astonished. The planet before him was their home, the cradle of humanity. It was truly magnificent. On the communication frequency, Zhou Yuan continually expressed his amazement. Seeing Earth from the moon gave him such a magical and surreal feeling. Fang Jing, I can roughly see the outline of Earth, and it just turned to show Asia. Yes, that's the Bohai Bay, that's my home. Fang Jing felt an inexplicable emotion welling up within him as he barely recognized the place where he lived from the faint outline. Haha, Earth. I never expected that one day I could leave Earth. Zhou Yuan was also exceptionally excited. Standing on the moon and seeing Earth, along with the faint view of their hometown, created a strong sense of reversal and absurdity. It truly felt like gazing at the bright moon while thinking of home. I am looking forward more and more to the grand sight of humanity forming fleets and roaming through space. As Fang Jing looked up at Earth and the endless universe in the background, a sense of ambition gradually rose within him. He was now able to open the spatial gateway to the wandering Earth. The cooperation between this universe and the wandering Earth universe would undoubtedly deepen. The science of the wandering Earth was highly advanced, though their technological development was somewhat distorted due to the solar crisis. However, there was no doubt that their technology had reached a level where they could travel within star systems. They could even form interstellar colonization fleets at any cost. As long as they could smoothly acquire all their technology, the solar system would become a backyard for their nation. This was a new era of great navigation. The solar system represented humanity's outer sea, while humans could only build small rafts that were utterly defenseless against the storms. But they had already gained the upper hand and would ultimately conquer every inch of territory in the solar system. Fang Jing clenched his fists, his heart stirred. After decades of calm, humanity was finally about to enter a new era of exploration. And this time, their nation would lead the way. Other countries and nations would no longer have the chance to rise again, because the great navigation of the Earth era was constrained by the limitations of Earth, where resources were finite. But in this era of cosmic navigation, resources were limitless for their nation. The resources of these two great navigation eras were simply not on the same scale. The New World can sustain the alliance that has ruled the Earth for hundreds of years. What about the space age? Fang Jing couldn't even imagine what it would be like when his country truly takes the lead in entering the universe. With such infinite resources, what kind of massive civilization could emerge? No, it's not just a nation, but the entirety of Huaxia civilization. The universe is so vast and enchanting. Brother Zhou, let us take a look around, leave a memory, and prepare to return to Earth. Fang Jing gazed at the stunning sight before him. He couldn't wait to go back and set up the space portal. All right, I'll follow your lead. On April 15th, at Fang Jing's request, Brother Zhai reluctantly took the two of them back to Earth aboard the spaceship. When they landed at the Prince of Grassland's flag drop-off point, Fang Jing gave Brother Zhai a thumbs up. Brother Zhai, I believe you now. Your spaceship piloting skills are top-notch. Waving his hand, Fang Jing continued to express his gratitude. If there is a chance in the future, I'll ask Brother Zhai to help me pilot the spaceship again. Haha, I've said it before, piloting a spaceship is as easy as driving a tractor for me. Although Brother Zhai felt a bit regretful, he was still happy and waved goodbye to Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan. After a quick health check, Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan were immediately sent to the Xishan base. At the base, Old Zhu had been waiting for a long time. Beside him stood a squad of fully armed soldiers. Their exoskeletons were entirely black, holding steel guns in one hand, with drones in their left hands, heavy machine guns strapped to their right hips, and 8 tube rocket launchers and portable air defense systems on their backs. Additionally, there was a mechanical dog made entirely of pipes following closely behind. This squad of soldiers was truly armed to the teeth. The cold gleam of the exoskeleton armor jolted Fang Jing's heart. Xiao Fang, welcome back. Old Zhu stepped forward and firmly patted Fang Jing on the shoulder. Fang Jing had already informed him of everything that happened on the moon during the health check. Therefore, he had been busy organizing personnel to prepare for contact with the wandering Earth. Old Zhu, such a grand setup. Fang Jing looked at the squad, clicking his tongue in amazement. Be careful, it's never wrong to be cautious, especially since there is a super artificial intelligence lurking in the shadows. As for Moss, Old Zhu could only say that one could never be too careful. Besides, we 1T recklessly rush in. The space portal also requires the other side to prepare the site. So in the end, we still need to trouble you. Old Zhu, you're too modest. These are minor details. Fang Jing waved his hand and joked. This trip to the moon really gave me a deep impression. After this experience, I have even more respect for our country's astronauts. That rocket is truly not something just anyone can handle. For my future comfort in space, I think it's very necessary to expedite the construction of the space elevator for the wandering Earth universe. That way, I can take my family to travel to the moon for leisure. Haha, you rascal, that's great. Old Zhu laughed heartily while stroking his beard. I need to live a few more years so I can enjoy some good fortune and take a trip to the moon. Don't worry, old Zhu. You're still in good shape. That day is certainly not far off. Fang Jing replied with a light chuckle. With the space gate, what is there to fear? Is the technology in this universe slow to digest? We can directly bring over the scientists from the wandering Earth universe and pull over the production lines and equipment. All the problems can be solved in no time. Before the space gate, it would take time for the country to slowly digest these technologies. But now, with the space gate, it's like swallowing it whole. No need to digest, just directly absorb the entire industry chain. The development speed of the country will be incredibly fast enough to create two separate worlds with others. By the time the country fully absorbs the technology from the wandering Earth, other nations will be left far behind. You little ones, get ready to sweat it out. Chapter 77, Space Gate, Unfold. Fang Jing, disregarding his travel fatigue, went straight to the underground section of the Shishan base. This place had undergone significant renovations by the engineering team within the base. The warehouse that could hold an entire production line for post-nuclear recovery had been emptied and transformed into a large armory. The armory had many divisions. At the front against the wall, there was a large isolation and disinfection area. Directly opposite the armory, a buffer zone had been created. In the buffer zone, there was a road leading directly to the surface. Tanks, armored vehicles, armed forces, and negotiation specialists were all on standby. Fang Jing's ability to traverse and operate the space gate are two completely different concepts. People in this universe have never interacted with those from the wandering Earth. Thus, there remains a subtle barrier between the two worlds. This is also why previous exchanges have always had some semblance of mutual benefit. However, all of this will surely change with the opening of the space gate. Fang Jing firmly believed this, because the country in the wandering Earth universe, like this one, is composed of individuals with noble ideals and firm beliefs. They, under the crisis of human civilization, can even unite the entire human world to steadfastly promote the wandering Earth plan. Such determination, such awareness, such belief is truly deserving of being defined as comrades by this universe. Xiaofeng, I'm entrusting this matter to you. Old Zhu looked at the ready-to-go team, feeling a surge of heroism, as if he were back deep in the great desert. He gave Fang Jing a few words of advice, then patted him on the shoulder and chuckled. Now that the space gate is open, we can't reach Jupiter just yet, but you will be quite comfortable when the time comes. Old Zhu, do you have any plans? Fang Jing had just been contemplating what to do now that the space gate was open and he no longer needed to act as a messenger for both sides. He didn't expect Old Zhu to already have a plan. Hee, Xiaofeng, you study applied physics, right? Old Zhu chuckled a couple of times, looking at Zhao Guangyao, who was organizing personnel, without waiting for an answer, instead asking. That's right, applied physics, Fang Jing confirmed. Just when we had some free time, we decided to organize some scientists from the 237 project to give you a few lessons. After finishing the martial arts part, it's time for some cultural education. Hee. Chuckling twice, Mr. Zhu added, it's just right. During this time, we can sort out your university matters. Given your current situation, it's impossible for you to lead a normal university life. That's true, Fang Jing nodded. Mr. Zhu's words were completely on point. With his current condition, attending university was simply unrealistic. Even if he did go, he wouldn't be able to focus. Moreover, the scientists in the 237 project could be said to be the cream of the crop in the scientific community. The thought of these people teaching Fang Jing alone was beyond his imagination. Wow, what an incredible faculty. Amazing. Half an hour later, the military forces in the entire area were ready. Under the assessment of the researchers, Fang Jing arrived at the disinfection room. I'll go notify them. Fang Jing greeted the surveillance and then immediately vanished from the spot. In the world of the wandering Earth, shortly after Fang Jing crossed over, Zhou Weirong pushed the door open. Brother Zhou, we can open the space gate now. You all should choose a location quickly. The space gate. Zhou Weirong's smile immediately froze and turned serious. He quickly responded, I'll arrange it right away. The fact that they could open the space gate was undeniably great news. He needed to tell his father immediately. His father had been waiting for this moment. Great. Fang Jing quietly waited in place, anticipating their arrangements. After a few months, seeing Zhou Weirong again, and knowing he was safe, made Fang Jing very happy. An hour quickly passed. Suddenly, the door creaked open. In came Zhou Zhizhong, along with Zhou Weirong following closely behind. Xiaofeng, are you saying that they can set up the space gate? Zhou Zhizhong was no longer his usual calm self. The excitement in his eyes was almost overflowing. The space gate. This represented infinite possibilities. If it was true, it would be another lifeline for their world. Is this really happening? Seemingly not feeling secure enough, Zhou Zhizhong asked twice. Mr. Zhou, this is true. We are all set, and just waiting for you. Fang Jing smiled widely, understanding the excitement in the old gentleman's eyes, and immediately added, You've given us so many great gifts and treated us sincerely. So we definitely won't let you down. Good, good. Zhou Zhizhong received Fang Jing's affirmative answer and repeated good 3 times. He saw the perfect solution to the solar crisis in the world of the wandering Earth through the space gate. The original plan to move mountains, while it had hope for saving humanity, was still too long at 2,500 years. After all, it had only been about 2,300 years since the Qin dynasty to their present time. This long journey left humanity fragile in the universe, like a candle flickering in the wind, at risk of extinguishing at any moment. But now, the 710 Research Institute had a space gate leading to a parallel universe. We will prepare the location for the space gate right away. Zhou Ji spoke with a firm tone and gave his palm a heavy slap. Recently, he had been overwhelmed by the rebels, the Digital Life faction, and the spaceship faction. This news now felt like an unexpected joy. I look forward to negotiating with the people on your side. I also look forward to it. We share the same culture and ethnicity. And we will not stand idly by regarding your safety. Fang Jing spoke with certainty. The Huagua of the Wandering Earth universe and the Huagua of this universe have no barriers at all. Fang Jing even felt that the atmosphere at Research Institute 710 was no different from that at the Xishan base. The cultural identity and the education received from a young age on both sides are extremely similar. This is truly one civilization. There is no issue with the integration of the two sides. Xiaofang, you are doing great. Hearing the words "we will not stand idly by," Zhou Ji felt a surge of emotion and nodded heavily, a faint glow in his eyes. Sharing the same culture and ethnicity, we will fully assist you in development. Helping you is also helping us. Zhou Ji waved his hand to signal Zhou Weirong to prepare while he quietly watched his son. Currently, the entire area near 710 is under signal jamming. We have roughly determined the position of Moss through technical means. Thanks to the quantum computer 550A not yet being in use, we will soon be able to lock onto it. Zhou Ji squinted slightly, then changed his tone and said softly, "However, after discussions among all of us, we do not plan to expose him directly. Unity comes at a cost. Humanity is such a species. The spaceship faction, the Digital Life faction, and the rebels are always engaged in internal conflict until a crisis arises. Moss is undoubtedly the best catalyst. However, it has undoubtedly discovered something and is now closely monitoring this place. You must ensure the safety of Research Institute 710. The space gate must not be compromised." Zhou Ji's voice was serious, especially towards his son. "I understand, father. I will fight to protect the safety here." Chapter 78 Two Worlds. A historic meeting. The setup in the Wandering Earth world went quickly. Once Zhou Weirong brought Fang Jing to the location for the space gate, Fang Jing did not linger for a moment and instantly disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already back in the armory of this universe. The other side was ready. As soon as Fang Jing appeared, he immediately reported to Zhu Lao, who had been waiting for a long time. "Good. Let us set up the space gate." Upon hearing this, Zhu Lao nodded, but his curious gaze was fixed on Fang Jing. Not just him, at that moment. Everyone in the armory involved in this matter turned their curious eyes towards Fang Jing. Almost instantly, they transformed into curious onlookers. This is opening a space gate. How would Fang Jing do it? Just place it here, right? Looking at the enormous research equipment ahead, Fang Jing pointed, and the research staff confirmed it. "That's right. Colonel Fang, right here." "Good." Fang Jing received confirmation and immediately communicated with the machine in his consciousness. On the machine, a small point was floating, and gradually, a red light began to emerge from the point. The red light grew larger and larger. Under Fang Jing's guidance, a tear appeared in the space in front of the massive research equipment. A pitch-black spherical void emerged in its place. The dark part of the spherical portal shimmered with dazzling starlight, as if an endless galaxy was flowing within it, looking extremely mysterious. Is this the spatial portal? It is spherical and resembles the shape of a wormhole unfolded in three-dimensional space. How amazing! Is this something that a person can achieve with an unknown machine? That machine must be a remnant of a higher dimensional being. This is the spatial portal that can traverse parallel universes. Although they were mentally prepared, the scientists present were still immensely shocked. This scene was simply shattering their worldview. No, their worldview had already been shattered when they joined the 237 project. And this time, it was as if a steamroller was crushing over their already shattered worldview, firmly pressing it to the ground. "Team 1, follow me in." Zhu Lao smirked, laughing heartily a few times, and stepped forward, eager to enter with Fang Jing. "Xiaofang, is this enough? Can we go in?" Fang Jing answered truthfully. "According to the machine's prompt, we can." "All right, let's go. I want to see just what kind of remarkable person that Zhou Zhijing, whom you've praised, truly is." After saying this, he boldly strode towards the dark, starry portal. A fully armed team of soldiers did not hesitate and immediately followed him in. Fang Jing stood before the portal, feeling quite curious. In the past, he had always relied on that machine to traverse, and he wondered what kind of experience this portal would provide. Following Zhu Lao, he stepped into the portal. It was dark in front of him, and when he could see again, he found himself in the world of the Wandering Earth. It felt just like walking through a door with a curtain. He felt nothing at all. In the underground space of the Wandering Earth, Zhou Zhijing stared wide-eyed at the suddenly appearing pitch-black sphere shimmering with starlight. "This is it. The spatial portal." Zhou Weirong looked at the distant sphere with his mouth agape, utterly shocked. They had never imagined that the spatial portal would look like this. What appeared before them completely overturned their understanding, especially when an elderly man with white hair but extremely bright eyes slowly walked out of the portal. "You must be Zhu Lao." Zhou Zhijing's eyes sparkled, and he smiled as he immediately approached. He earnestly shook hands with Zhu Lao. This was a historic meeting. The representatives of two different universes from the same country officially shook hands. Deeper cooperation officially began. At the Xishan base, Jiang Su sat meticulously in the control room of the tokamak nuclear fusion device, clenching his fists, with cold sweat continually trickling down his forehead. This is the 567th experiment led by him since he arrived at the Western Mountain Base. 6 months ago, he was falsely accused of stealing data from an international fusion experiment project, which led to his country being expelled from it. Although his superiors and colleagues knew he was innocent, he still felt a lingering resentment. Because of him, his country might fall behind in the research of controlled nuclear fusion. Energy revolution. Whoever controls energy controls the fate of the world. This has been proven by the decades-long dominance of the oil dollar hegemony. Jiangsu absolutely cannot allow his country to miss the leading position in controlled nuclear fusion because of him. In fact, his country has always been at the forefront of research in nuclear fusion and tokamak technology. This advantage must not be lost on his watch. Fortunately, the Western Mountain Base still has a complete set of tokamak devices to continue his research. Beep, beep, beep. The experiment results are out. Plasma stability at 1.6 billion degrees. Confinement time of 650 seconds. Looking at the results on the computer screen, Jiangsu clenched his fists and excitedly shouted, "Once again, a record has been broken. We're only 350 seconds away from sustained fusion. The first wall is undamaged, and the active cooling system is functioning normally. Amazing. The new material has blocked neutron collisions, and it seems fully feasible." Jiangsu's eyes sparkled with excitement. He wants to wash away the shame he feels and prove to those who misunderstand him both domestically and internationally. He, Jiangsu, did not steal the data? This is a false accusation. This is blatant political persecution. The only way to prove it is to produce results that are more perfect and advanced than those of the international project, or closer to achieving controlled nuclear fusion. He does not dare to hope for a complete success in controlled nuclear fusion under his hands. However, he must produce results stronger than those of the project. I need more data on this material. Realizing the first wall material provided by the base is extraordinary, Jiangsu's eyes lit up, ready to continue the experiment. "Old Jiang, it's already 4 a.m. Are you going to keep going?" A colleague of Jiangsu, seeing him wanting to continue the experiment, quickly grabbed his hand. "Big brother, come on. We've already switched shifts twice. You're addicted to pulling all-nighters." "Not yet. This is the day I feel closest to controlled nuclear fusion. The temperature has reached, and the first wall has blocked neutron radiation. If I can sustain it for 1,000 seconds and prove stability, I can persuade the senior management to build a larger device. This device will definitely surpass the international project, and once we solve the plasma turbulence issue, we might even achieve true controlled nuclear fusion." The gap between 650 seconds and 1,000 seconds feels closer than ever to Jiangsu. Just a step away. And most importantly, the first wall is handling it well at 650 seconds. He believes that reaching 1,000 seconds is completely achievable. Continuing the experiment, this time the target is 675 seconds. With a focus on observing the first wall's reaction. Although he felt excited, Jiangsu did not forget the rigorous spirit of science. Being careless was a big taboo. A 25-second increase was a reasonable deduction based on the data from the first wall. He aimed to push it to 1,000 seconds step by step, to wash away the humiliation he had endured. Chapter 79. Welcome news, signs of division in the eyes of his colleagues. Jiangsu was a very serious and earnest person. Being serious and earnest meant that he valued his reputation highly. Therefore, the slander from certain entities made him feel endless humiliation. This was also the reason he worked tirelessly to achieve success and prove himself. "Well, we'll accompany you in this endeavor, but old Jiang, you at least need to ensure you get some sleep every day." Hearing Jiangsu's words, his colleague sighed helplessly, then immediately went to prepare for the continuation of the experiment. Old Jiang treated them well on a daily basis and had a good rapport at the institute. Since he was willing to go all out, they would do it for their friend. "Don't worry, just this once. Let us prepare to heat the deuterium-tritium gas." Jiangsu smiled at his old colleague. He was about to say a few more words when he suddenly raised an eyebrow. Why were there footsteps outside? So late. Was there someone else besides them? The footsteps approached, and the door to their lab was slowly opened. "Old Ju, you're still up?" Jiangsu's eyes widened in disbelief upon seeing the visitor. It was actually Old Ju. "Huh. I heard you've been staying up until 4 or 5 o'clock every day." Old Ju raised his hand to calm him down, walked to the control panel, pressed the switch for fuel injection, looked at Jiangsu with a slight smile, and continued. "Is this how eager you are to achieve results?" "Of course, Old Ju. Only when I produce results will the higher-ups approve the funding for building large-scale equipment." Jiangsu's eyes were firm as he affirmed. "While the ITER hasn't been installed yet, let us get ahead and achieve critical results. Not only will we move closer to controlled nuclear fusion, but I will also wash away my humiliation." Jiangsu spoke sincerely, not hiding his desperate reason for working so hard. It was to cleanse his shame. "Well, your temperament is indeed like that of a bull." Old Ju, upon hearing his reason, not only did not get angry due to his personal motives, but rather admired him. After all, they had once dedicated themselves to the desert for over a decade just to prove a point. "How do you feel about the new materials provided to you by the base?" After pondering for a moment, Old Ju changed the topic and began to inquire about other matters. "Very good. The first wall made from this material has a self-cooling efficiency 5 times that of the original," Jiangsu said excitedly and earnestly. "I even feel that the limit the first wall can withstand is around 900 seconds. After asking this question, Old Ju quietly looked at Jiangsu, not saying anything further. Jiangsu felt a bit uneasy under his gaze, unsure of Old Ju's thoughts, and could only wait quietly for him to continue. Cough cough. Clearing his throat twice and breaking into a smile, Elder Zhu suddenly waved his hand and turned to Jiangsu, saying mysteriously, "You are already at the top of the world in the research of controlled nuclear fusion. Come with me. It's entirely feasible with your help. It's time for you to know what the Xishan base is really hiding." What is hidden in the Xishan base? Jiangsu's heart trembled, and his eyes widened in surprise. It turns out that those secret experimental devices are not the main focus of concealment at the Xishan base. There are even more mysterious things behind it. What could it be? Curiosity instantly filled his mind. Gritting his teeth, he followed Elder Zhu without hesitation. In France, at the ITER construction site, Foreign watched as a massive transport vehicle came to a steady stop in the designated area, letting out a sigh of relief. Finally, everything is in place. We can start the assembly now. Next to him, the head of ITER equipment, Anus, also exhaled and snorted coldly. Do they really think that without them, ITER can't operate? How ridiculous. Anus, it was originally like that. If it weren't for the immense investment from a certain country, we would indeed have been in trouble without them. Foreign shook his head, refuting his companion while sneering, but now, we completely don't need them anymore. And they are destined to be eliminated by us. ITER is bound to usher in the era of controlled nuclear fusion. By then, we, the Western world, will regain control over the entire planet. The military division schemes of certain Eastern countries will crumble without a fight. We will hold the true future of the world. After saying this, Foreign and Anus exchanged glances and laughed heartily. Energy is the true future of the entire world. A certain Eastern country is merely flaunting its strength for the moment. The future is long, and the West has not declined as drastically. Let us wait and see. In a certain place, a call from France was just hung up by Fred at the White House. Finally, there is some good news. The assembly of ITER has officially commenced. Great. I hope we can see results soon. While Fred was filled with joy, he suddenly furrowed his brows upon seeing a report in his hand. This was the latest intelligence from the FBI. Due to being expelled from East Asia and the Middle East, the influence of a certain country was severely weakened. The hegemony of its currency and oil collapsed, unable to exploit the world, leading to a sudden eruption of all domestic conflicts. The rate of gun violence and crime skyrocketed by 500. Even worse, wealthy areas were invaded by criminal gangs. Shockingly, even the rich neighborhoods were not spared, and the victim was a major capitalist. If this incident gets out, it would cause an uproar. In reality, this country is just a large corporation disguised as a nation. Many wealthy capitalists are its shareholders, and the entire system is manipulated by them behind the scenes. As a result, this time, the flood has washed away the Dragon King's temple. A major capitalist was actually robbed by the mob. Texas is dissatisfied with the new oil policy and is now pushing for independence. In a certain state, it is claimed that the federal government can no longer provide a safe environment for their high-tech industrial park, which has been attacked and looted 15 times in just 5 days, leading them to also seek independence. Fuck. Looking at the information on the report, Fred's momentary joy quickly turned into frustration. These damn bastards. Everyone is against me. They all deserve to be cursed. A hint of fear arose in Fred's heart. These people are all opportunists. If the country really declines, they would dare to seek independence. The states possess a high degree of autonomy, with significant legal variations among them. For instance, regarding the death penalty, those unfamiliar with the country might say that it has abolished it. However, in reality, there are still 28 states that retain the death penalty. Therefore, when there are significant interests at stake, the possibility of fragmentation is not absent, especially in rebellious Texas. Texas is rich in resources, and if it were to become independent, it could become the 10th largest economy in the world. Moreover, Texas even has a tradition of seeking separation. It has its own independent power system. As Fred looked at the report in his hand, cold sweat began to flow down his forehead and back involuntarily. These troublesome citizens are starting to attack the big capitalists. Some wealthy individuals, sensing danger, would undoubtedly take irrational actions. The possibility of fragmentation is indeed real. No, I absolutely cannot allow this. Fred crumpled the report in his hand and shouted hysterically, I will not allow this to happen. Chapter 80. What if we can't produce it? As the saying goes, when neighbors stockpile grain, I stockpile guns. As May arrived, the people in a certain country suddenly noticed that prices began to plummet, especially for industrial goods on assembly lines. The price drops were astonishing. A new electric vehicle that used to cost 1 or 2,000 is now only 2 to 300. What is going on? While food prices remained stable, industrial goods and even electronic products saw significant price drops. This is due to the upgrade of production lines. Factories previously reliant on intensive labor have all switched to industrial robots. These robots are incredible, working tirelessly 24 hours a day. Previous workers have been reassigned to high-end production lines where there is a severe labor shortage. No wonder. But isn't it more expensive to use robots? The person upstairs must not understand. These are new robots launched by Northern Industries, which are not only cheap and durable, but also incredibly precise and fast, making manual labor completely non-competitive. As he spoke, the individual shared a video. The video showed a cargo center where over 20 humanoid robots were tirelessly picking goods at an incredible speed, far surpassing any human capability. This is truly a revolution in productivity. Such robots could even replace most manual labor. The only regret is energy. If breakthroughs were made in this area, electricity could become free, and I can't even imagine how cheap everything would be. At that time, material life would become abundantly rich. People would be completely liberated from meaningless work. The key point is that even if these products were sold at such low prices domestically, those who set up factories would not suffer any losses. These goods can be exported. Now, the Eastern nation is one of the poles in a multipolar world. Who would dare refuse trade with it? Once these products enter foreign markets, with such low prices and high quality, who wouldn't buy them? Money would flow steadily towards the Eastern nation. Moreover, the entire industrial chain would be permanently established there. This was the original plan of the nation, different from the global hegemony seen elsewhere. The latter relies on oil dollars and unmatched military power to establish its dominance globally. However, with such power comes vulnerability. When its economy weakens, flaws are exposed. The Eastern nation, however, has taken a completely different path, aiming to permanently become the industrial center of the world. Of course, this was the original plan. But since gaining the ability to access parallel universes, the plan has changed. The dominance of Earth is insignificant. Previously, resources on Earth were scarce, leading to conflicts. Now, I won't play along anymore. I'm leaving Earth behind. In mid-May, a piece of news captured the attention of media worldwide. The news originated from southern France and concerned controllable nuclear fusion. ITER assembly completed. Controllable nuclear fusion technology is within reach. Humanity's light. ITER assembly completed. The beginning of the fourth energy revolution? Humanity's artifact ITER aimed at controllable nuclear fusion. This news was even more explosive than any recent events involving the decline of global hegemony. If the latter signifies the fall of a world leader, the former represents a leap in human technological advancement. Controllable nuclear fusion technology. For limited coal, oil, and natural gas, the fuel for controllable nuclear fusion could be equated to endless energy for humanity at this stage. This is why countries around the world are flocking to it. ITER is the ultimate artifact created by several countries to achieve controllable nuclear fusion, leading humanity towards limitless energy. This project began in the 1980s, with various countries involved in lengthy negotiations, and it has finally been completed. This moment is destined to be recorded in world history. Leading news outlets around the globe undoubtedly showcased this stunning image. In a small town in southern France, a massive building stands tall. This enormous structure is the ITER facility, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. It embodies the pinnacle of cutting-edge technology from this universe. It will address the last two issues of tokamak fusion during its operation: neutron irradiation and plasma turbulence. Once these two issues are resolved, controlled nuclear fusion will be unshackled. This is ITER, truly magnificent. Thank goodness. Controlled nuclear fusion is the future of humanity. This time, we have once again seized the opportunity. We have absolute control over ITER. A temporary small victory for a certain Eastern nation means nothing. Just wait. Once we complete the energy revolution, they will be sent back where they came from. It is an incredibly impressive man-made creation, the pinnacle of human technology. Major news media outlets and people around the world, especially in the West, are in a frenzy. After the astonishing battles in December, it is clear that the Eastern winds have overpowered the Western ones. This has shattered their pride accumulated over centuries, as they find themselves beneath those they once looked down upon. They were momentarily unable to hold their heads high, feeling devastated. However, now, because of ITER and controlled nuclear fusion, they have lifted their heads again. They have found a comforting excuse. Their civilization, Western civilization, is still great. They still possess the most advanced technology in the world. It's just that, for the time being, they have been overshadowed militarily by those they consider uncivilized and unrefined. It's understandable that those deemed uncivilized might display greater military strength. It fits their stereotype of savages, strong in body, simple in mind. Yet, they believe that their civilization will surely overcome those uncivilized individuals. It was true a century ago, and it remains so today. Therefore, this news has almost become a reassuring charm for those who blindly believe in the superiority of Western civilization. Even domestically, some previously suppressed voices are starting to rise again. On platforms like a certain blogging site, where people from all over the world interact more frequently, there is minimal mockery. However, on a certain platform known for its negativity, this news has become a disaster zone. I remember it was Jiangsu who caused us to be ousted from ITER, right? Indeed, this is controlled nuclear fusion. What does temporary military strength matter? This is the key to opening a new era. Now we are in trouble. We are falling behind in the fourth energy revolution. Just a while ago, we were boasting about being #1 in the world, and look, just a few days later, our flaws are showing. Various sarcastic comments are starting to appear in the comment section. But it's okay, some netizens will step in. Hee to those making snide remarks. Don't forget that this world speaks with strength. Have you forgotten the famous saying about the survival of the fittest? Funny, isn't it? My neighbor stockpiles food while I stockpile weapons. What comes next? What are we leading in again? Dare to exclude us? I remember the Middle East is the oil hub, right? How are they doing? Makes sense. My neighbor stockpiles food while I stockpile weapons. The neighbor is my granary. Mastering military strength means having the upper hand. Who is afraid of what? Chapter 81. Jiangsu feels that this is becoming too much for the Eastern nation. Although everyone is arguing passionately online, with neighbors stockpiling food and weapons, in reality, there is still some concern. After all, certain countries are nuclear powers. So it is not really appropriate to compare them to the Middle East from the last century. If the other side manages to complete their energy revolution alongside developing anti-electromagnetic pulse weapons, then they will be in trouble. Therefore, everyone is actually quite anxious and worried. How should we respond to this matter? They have already fallen behind significantly in this regard. The ITER project is aimed at achieving controlled nuclear fusion. If the adversary completes controlled nuclear fusion first, it would be problematic. The entire Western world has recognized this as a key countermeasure. They take it very seriously, viewing it as a sign of counteroffensive against the Eastern world, and they are promoting it widely among the public. Technological supremacy is their mantra, claiming that Eastern powers are merely engaging in militarization. The civilized world will eventually destroy the uncivilized lands. That is a promise. We have not lost yet. It is just the schemes of the despicable Easterners. With this mindset, several states that were previously wavering have surprisingly chosen to pause and observe, following the federal government's lead, seemingly hoping to assess the situation before making decisions. If the federal government truly breaks through this critical technology, they too will enjoy the immense profits it brings. As for what happens to the nation or the citizens, that is not something big capitalists need to consider. Capital votes with its feet, and these states are all controlled by large capitalists. As for the ITER project team, upon seeing the ceiling finally installed, the project leader felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. The team member's smile blossomed like a flower and did not fade. After 10 years, ITER has finally been constructed, and our experiments will officially begin. Indeed, although the process has been challenging, controlled nuclear fusion may finally be within our grasp, and all of human history will remember us. We will be etched in history like Einstein and Schrödinger. Although the project leader is sent from a certain country, he also embodies the spirit of scientific pursuit. Now that ITER is completed, this is the only machine capable of supporting complete controlled nuclear fusion to date, igniting humanity's future, and they will all become witnesses. You are right, controlled nuclear fusion is only likely to be achieved in our hands. This is not arrogance, but a reasonable inference based on the current global research situation. Currently, apart from the ITER device, other tokamaks are merely scaled-down experimental devices. Although ITER is also an experimental device, it has a complete ignition system. While other experimental devices do not have any ignition system at all, the only machine capable of supporting controlled nuclear fusion reactions is not an exaggeration, but a statement of fact. Currently, it stands as the sole representative worldwide. Who else could it be? Another type of stellarator? Or perhaps a Z-pinch? Stop messing around. The achievements made by the imitation star device are not even worthy of supporting the tokamak. The tokamak theory was perfected as early as the end of the last century. The numerous experiments conducted today are only to address the final issues and test stability. In other words, scientists had already calculated the specific data for the tokamak based on the fusion triple product by the end of the last century. So why has there been no progress over the years? It's because the controlled nuclear fusion route of the tokamak is no longer a theoretical issue, but an engineering one. For so many years, countless individuals have been continuously building tokamaks to accumulate engineering experience, all in preparation for the eventual creation of this miraculous device. ITER is the ultimate miracle, a tokamak built perfectly according to the fusion triple product data, and we are bound to succeed. There is great confidence in this. With the miracle in hand, as long as we keep experimenting, we will eventually find a solution. Once a solution is found, the entire world will return to the reign of democracy and freedom. They firmly believe in this and practice it as well. Mega, at the Shishan base. Several days had passed since Zhu Lao and Zhou Zhe had a deep conversation. On the first day they met, they talked late into the night. Fang Jing remembered that Zhu Lao only left the wandering Earth world at around 4 in the morning. He also vaguely recalled that after leaving, Zhu Lao seemed to have gone to the laboratory on the surface. Controlled nuclear fusion is now widely recognized as the best choice for humanity's future energy. Currently, in a small study, Fang Jing sat on the sofa, behaving like a diligent student. Well, actually, he is a student now. Beside him, an old professor with glasses was slowly explaining knowledge about controlled nuclear fusion. Just remember the core theories and key conditions. The experimental conditions at Shishan base are good. The rest is all about practice. Idle talk about theory won't do. I'll have Zhu Lao arrange for you to go to the experimental facility above. This old scholar advocates for practical work. After explaining the core theory of controlled nuclear fusion to Fang Jing, he insisted on taking him to conduct experiments. At that moment, suddenly, a cough was heard from the open door nearby. Zhu Lao, when did you arrive? Both of them brightened up upon seeing Zhu Lao. Just got here? Come with me, I have good news. Since starting his conversation with Zhou Zhe, Zhu Lao had not stopped smiling. He led Fang Jing and Professor Qian into the elevator and headed to the surface laboratory. At that time, in the laboratory, Jiang Su sat on the ground, looking foolish, checking several materials with instruments. Amazing, this thing can perfectly withstand neutron irradiation with a different distribution pattern. Cough, cough. Hearing Jiang Su begin to talk to himself, Zhu Lao lightly cleared his throat to signal that someone had arrived. Oh, Zhu Lao, you're here. Jiang Su heard a cough and quickly looked up to see it was old Zhu. He immediately jumped up in excitement, rushed to his side, and exclaimed, the materials and plans they provided have been tested. This material uses an unprecedented process, more than sufficient to solve the neutron irradiation problem. As for the turbulent solution, we're still verifying it, but if it proves successful, we can directly start constructing the controllable nuclear fusion experimental reactor. This is truly unbelievable. The excitement in Jiang Su's eyes was almost overflowing. He looked at old Zhu and Fang Jing, fists clenched, feeling like he was about to take off. That night, old Zhu had brought him into the 237 plan, and he had learned everything about it, willing to remain anonymous after achieving controllable nuclear fusion technology. The results did not disappoint him. At this moment, all the issues surrounding controllable nuclear fusion seemed to be resolved. To him, it felt like a dream. Could they really start building the controllable nuclear fusion equipment right away? It seemed too easy, almost like a cheat. Jiang Su thought of the world of the wandering earth, and his mouth twitched. It felt like they were indeed playing on easy mode. Chapter 82. How could the Dragon Rider lose? Throughout May, fueled by relentless rhetoric from a certain country, the topics of controllable nuclear fusion and ITER became increasingly heated in this universe. Under the overwhelming propaganda, it seemed that whoever completed controllable nuclear fusion technology first would become the new beacon of humanity. The Western world shamelessly proclaimed that victory through force is what savages do. Modern civilization must rely on technology. They aim to firmly grasp technological supremacy in their hands. Amidst this barrage of publicity, some previously confident netizens from another country began to panic. People tend to follow the crowd. When everyone was saying that the nation was falling behind in controllable nuclear fusion and that it was doomed, even the skeptics felt a twinge of anxiety. Online, there were worried individuals starting to inquire everywhere. Since we've withdrawn from ITER, we should have our own controllable nuclear fusion calculations, right? Even if we're not the first. We can't fall too far behind. Damn it, those foreign troublemakers are making noise again. We should have our own plan, especially since we have such a significant advantage. Surely there are arrangements being made? Hurry, is there any announcement? Every day I see them boasting about ITER, and it's driving me crazy. Where's our YesAT? Come out and save us. This time, due to the overwhelming propaganda, not only the onlookers were anxious, but even the nuclear physicists at the Plasma Research Institute were feeling unsettled. The other side was building momentum. They were coming on strong. How should they respond? The key issue was that if they did not respond, the hot money in the domestic market would flow to the West. That's exactly what they were counting on. Hot money could give the West a significant boost. No, Director, how should we respond? The scholars from the Plasma Research Institute, upon seeing the news, felt that the situation was dire and immediately rushed to the director's office. However, as they anxiously pushed the door open, they found the director leisurely sitting in the office, smiling as he browsed his computer. Curiously, they approached to take a look. To their surprise, the screen was displaying an overwhelming amount of propaganda. The director showed no signs of tension. Those familiar with him even detected a hint of mockery in his eyes. What is going on with the director? He seems completely unfazed. Usually, whenever there is a slight stir internationally, he would be the most anxious. Why the sudden change today? Haha, Shaoli. You must have seen the news too, right? Seeing the confusion in his subordinate's eyes, the director took a sip from the silver thermos beside him and smiled widely. We don't need to worry about this matter. There are arrangements from above. They think they can compete with us? What a delusion. Director, do you have some inside information? Since Jiang Su mysteriously disappeared after returning to the country, people in the institute speculated that the nation was secretly planning something big. Now, seeing the director so unperturbed in the face of a fierce adversary, it was clear he must know something. Curiosity ignited in the scholar's eyes. All right, Shaoli, you'll know soon enough. Waving his hand, the director revealed nothing and gestured for him to leave. Okay, knowing that this might be confidential. Shaoli nodded in disappointment and left immediately. After he departed, the director looked at the interview footage of the adversary on his computer screen and suddenly chuckled. Just a clown. With the current situation regarding ITER, will results not be delayed for another 30 years? With those two items, you're bound to lose. A determined glint flashed in his eyes. Just then, his phone rang urgently. Hello, Mr. Zhu? Is what you said true? All right, I'll release the news immediately. With a click, he hung up the phone, standing up in shock from his seat. His face was filled with astonishment, as if he had just heard something unbelievable. After hesitating for a second, he decisively grabbed the documents and immediately left his office, heading towards the publicity office. With such a big stir in nuclear fusion research, it was time for a certain Eastern nation to make a move. In France, at the ITER unveiling press conference, the adversary and a colleague were seated on the interview sofa, facing a smiling reporter from a certain media outlet. The atmosphere at the scene appeared harmonious. However, in reality, it had a strong underlying focus. Dr. Foreign, what are your forward-looking views on the ITER plan? The reporter started with a light question that had little impact. As the only currently viable controlled nuclear fusion reactor globally, ITER will provide us with abundant experimental data in the time to come. The smile on Foreign's face was filled with confidence. As he spoke, he lifted his head high, as if he could convey his confidence to the audience watching the program. As long as we solve the remaining issues, controlled nuclear fusion will pose no problem. I am confident that we can successfully ignite controlled nuclear fusion, referred to as the artificial sun by a certain Eastern nation in the south of France. When he mentioned this Eastern nation, Foreign's tone was somewhat dismissive, clearly intentional at that moment. Oh, you just mentioned the Eastern nation. What are your thoughts on their withdrawal from ITER? The host quickly seized Foreign's cue and immediately followed up with a series of seemingly casual inquiries. To be frank, we are quite sorry about their withdrawal, Foreign said, shrugging his shoulders in regret. They have missed a crucial moment for humanity's civilization to reach eternity. From our current perspective, although they possess more advanced military weapons. I personally believe that developing technology that benefits humanity should be our top priority. After all, history tells us that merely showing temporary bravery does not make one a hero. By the way, I learned this phrase from a colleague from the Eastern nation. It is said to be an ancient saying from there. Furin's tone was calm, seemingly without any other implication. However, his demeanor and gaze made it clear to anyone that this was a mockery, a blatant mockery. ITER has already been built. And even if the Eastern nation wanted to construct something of the same level, it would take at least 2 or 3 years, right? By then, they might not even have results. How could they possibly lose? Furin's remarks invigorated the reporters and even the audience present. This was undoubtedly a shot of adrenaline. Furin observed the expressions of the audience, feeling equally uplifted. Just like that, as long as they maintained their momentum, they would eventually surpass that certain Eastern nation again. Mr. Furin, could you elaborate? The reporter was about to ask another question when a commotion erupted from the audience. The once composed viewers, hearing distant gasps of surprise, began to check their phones. At that moment, regardless of the news app, the trending topic was solely focused on one explosive piece of news. The Eastern nation announces that it will complete the controlled nuclear fusion prototype and put it into operation this year. Chapter 83. Saying it will be completed this year means it will be completed this year. We are honest folk. By the end of May, amid overwhelming media coverage from the Western world, an atmosphere suggesting that ITER would soon complete its controlled nuclear fusion experiment enveloped the entire planet. Everyone knew this was a counterattack against the Eastern nation, and all were waiting for their response. However, they never expected that the Eastern nation would directly announce its intention to complete the controlled nuclear fusion prototype within a year. How could this be possible? At the press conference in France, upon seeing this news, the audience erupted in shock. After all, just a second ago, Furin had stated that the Eastern nation missed this opportunity. As a result, they are set to complete the prototype reactor this year. Everyone was taken aback and looked up at Fuluin, who was still speaking confidently and wore a look of disdain. The reporter was engrossed in listening to Fuluin's praise of the ITER project when suddenly, an urgent message came through the earpiece. He immediately covered his right ear and listened for a few seconds, his pupils dilating in shock. Ahem, Dr. Fuluin, we have received news. The energy department of a certain country has announced that they will complete a controllable nuclear fusion prototype this year. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Fuluin jumped up, his expression certain as he turned to the audience, whose eyes were filled with suspicion. He assured them with his expertise, there is no precedent for this in the scientific community. It is absolutely impossible for them to achieve this. The tokamak route has numerous unresolved issues. They cannot possibly finish this year. Thinking of the progress made by that country in their previous research, Fuluin exhaled sharply and regained his composure, stating emphatically, this is a joke. It must be false news, Mr. Doran. When looking at news from that country, you must refer to their official media. At least they maintain a rare spirit of rigor. This must be some fake news from a corner somewhere. It cannot be true. How can they build a prototype before completing the experiments? This process is not scientific. However, upon hearing Fuluin's doubts, the reporter coughed even more urgently. He had to remind him, Sir, this news is from the energy department of that country. It's the official announcement you mentioned. Fuluin's eyes widened in disbelief, exclaiming, WTF. Although I don't want to admit it, compared to the government of another nation, the government of the Eastern Power is clearly more trustworthy. So they really have confidence? How is that possible? This can't be. Fuluin stood frozen, unable to comprehend how they could have the audacity to announce the construction of a controllable nuclear fusion prototype this year. Based on what? With the help of the world of Wandering Earth, we successfully designed a commercial controllable nuclear fusion reactor, Elder Zhu said, standing in the conference room, pointing at the screen with a smile. We temporarily named it Golden Crow, symbolizing a man-made sun. Elder Zhu, can our current technology produce the new materials like those used in Wandering Earth? A scholar from the 237 project asked. Absolutely no problem. After guidance, the military academy has completed the preliminary upgrade of production capabilities. Elder Zhu nodded slowly, confirming, we are now capable of independently mass-producing the materials provided by them. Since that's the case, we're all set. The scholars had finished their questions. There were no issues left with the controllable nuclear fusion technology. Elder Zhu, can the engineering team finish this year? Jiang Su still seemed worried. Will the timeline be tight? Haha, Xiao Jiang, you can be even more assured about this. Elder Zhu responded to Jiang Su's question with a faint smile. He did not answer but smiled and retorted. You also read the setting collection of the Wandering Earth. With over 10,000 planetary engines, how did they achieve this feat in just 10 years? In just over a decade, the Wandering Earth built enough planetary engines to push the Earth. You say this was all done manually. How is that possible? Those planetary engines have a main body diameter of 11 kilometers and are 30 kilometers long, truly colossal man-made steel mountains. There's no way this could be purely manual. Industrial robots. Perhaps? Jiang Su recalled the setting collection and suddenly understood. Indeed, I had a late-night discussion with Minister Zhou. Zhu smiled faintly, his eyes sparkling, and said, the first level B technology we undertook was comprehensive industrial production technology. Productivity is the primary element. Now is the time to see the power of this technology. The technology of the Wandering Earth was drastically skewed due to the solar crisis. To prevent a complete and misguided adoption, the military academy has been selectively receiving it. This is also the reason why, even with the spatial gates for communication, there has been no direct exchange of level A technology. So is this why Yu Zhu set the timeline for this year? Jiangsu was now completely agitated. Controlled nuclear fusion is about to be realized. And within this year. Moreover, in his name, he could hardly imagine how exhilarating it would be. That's right, prepare well. After all, you have laid an important foundation for our success. Jiangsu returned home, feeling humiliated. As someone who once witnessed the wrongful detention of scientists, Zhu felt deeply. These are China's scientists. They are treasures. Having his own treasure humiliated. Zhu was determined to find a way to retaliate. That's just his nature. Since everyone is a scientist, revenge must be taken in a scientific way. Therefore this time, Jiangsu will be the focus of the publicity. I will be there on site to supervise. With revenge in sight, Jiangsu was excited and full of motivation. He clenched his fists and bit his back teeth. Still dare to slander me? Seeking death. In a bay somewhere in the West Sea, Wang Su sat on a rock. Fishing. The sea breeze blew as he took a nap under the sunshade, squinting at the distant bay. 2 hours passed. The once empty bay suddenly filled with numerous vehicles. Compactors, rollers, excavators, all converged here. Hey, I remember that plot of land across the way. It seems they are going to build a nuclear power plant, right? Is construction starting? But this seems too exaggerated. There must be 100 excavators. Removing his hat, Wang Su stood up in shock. What did he see? Following the construction machinery was a row of robots moving as if guided by a ruler. These robots had rugged exteriors. Yet their performance on the construction site was incredibly efficient, even far stronger than ordinary mortals. In just 10 minutes, the originally empty bay transformed into a bustling construction site. Moreover, a huge sign was also hung up. Wang Su squinted his eyes, carefully distinguishing for a moment, and recognized the large characters. Construction site of the controlled nuclear fusion prototype reactor. This is the construction of an artificial sun, a controlled nuclear fusion reactor. Instantly, Wang Su, who had been feeling lazy under the comfortable sea breeze and sunlight, was jolted awake. This is not a joke. They really started building. Chapter 84. The big brother must be missing the old days. When had Wang Su, the fisherman, ever seen such a scene? Thousands of robots, like locusts, swept across the ground, leveling the entire bay in just one afternoon. Boom. The sound of the impact hammer from the rammer striking the ground served as a constant reminder. What was happening before his eyes was real. Wow, these robots are working like their lives depend on it. Wang Su gazed through the telescope, constantly exclaiming in amazement, while holding a camera and recording the entire process without pause. Afterward, he shared the video in the group he often interacted with. Years ago, Wang Su had worked on a construction site. However, after just 2 months, he felt deeply that working hard would never lead to success. Therefore, he left and sincerely apprenticed under a local carpenter. After several twists and turns, he learned to fix cars and ran a small business. Eventually, he opened a small shop in his hometown and settled down. It was precisely because of his rich experiences, having struggled at the grassroots level, that he made many connections. Of course, he also knew quite a few people in the construction industry. This time, without hesitation, he sent the video from the bay to the nearby construction industry group. Sure enough, once the video was released, it caused a sensation among the public. Old Baotou, Wang Gu, where's this construction site with all the robots? Don't scare me. Su Baotou, it's over, feels like it's by the southern coast. The efficiency of these robots is unbelievable. Feng Qinghua, this is from the Nuclear Industry Bureau. I saw the bidding documents a few days ago, and I'm currently considering learning to fix cars. It's really over, if even Feng Gu says so. With the efficiency of these robots, what need will there be for manual labor? We're all going to be unemployed. The efficiency of these industrial robots was truly shocking. With so many construction machines, there were only a handful of people directing the work at the bay. Almost everything else was operated automatically. Having previously worked in construction, Wang Su observed the vast site where only a few people were in the control room, and the words that had been promoted countless times flashed in his mind. Science and technology are the primary productive forces. In the past, he didn't have a concrete understanding of this statement. Now he completely understood. This statement was absolutely correct. Work that used to require hundreds of people now. 2 people controlling robots can completely handle everything. The efficiency is incredibly high, saving a lot compared to manual labor. At the same time, videos of a controllable nuclear fusion prototype being built in a certain region are spreading online. This news, combined with announcements from relevant research institutions and energy departments, has gone viral. For the past half-month, Western media has been hyping up a certain international project as if it were about to achieve the impossible. People around the world believe that controllable nuclear fusion can only be achieved through this project. There is a sentiment that without it, controllable nuclear fusion will remain a distant dream. Particularly during the Western promotions, there have been veiled insults directed at a certain Eastern nation, portraying it as an uncivilized and barbaric country that only knows how to use force. The citizens of that nation have been seething with anger. What do you mean by only knowing how to use force? Isn't it ironic for others to say that? Honestly reflecting, who isn't involved in conflicts or on the way to confrontations? Oh, right, some may lack a conscience. Anyway, as a country that prides itself on civilization, being insulted by the West as uncivilized has reached a boiling point for its citizens. Some have even taken to international platforms to voice their frustrations. However, Since their isn't an entity of the same level as that international project and no convincing evidence, they have been stuck in a cycle of insults. So they are quite frustrated, hoping for some uplifting news from the authorities. Today, that news is not just uplifting, it's incredibly exhilarating. It can even be said to shatter everyone's perceptions. A prototype? Really, I'm not dreaming? I saw aerial photos. It's true, right in the region. They are already working on it. Wow, controllable nuclear fusion is about to become a reality. A prototype, am I mistaken? Is there even a difference from that international project? The project is still an experimental demonstration reactor. If the prototype goes well, it could directly serve as a template for commercial reactors. In short, the prototype is far superior. This isn't just a leap. If successful, it will directly achieve controllable nuclear fusion. Oil prices are plummeting. If controllable nuclear fusion succeeds, oil will only be relegated to a chemical product, and the wealth of major oil investors will shrink drastically. The project, named Golden Crow, is being photographed in the region. I'm heading online to confront them. Let us see how they respond. The announcement from the relevant research institution and energy department, along with photos from the construction site, confirms this news without a doubt. Especially after the official site photos were released, everyone felt a sense of relief. After half a month of Western media hype, it turned out to be nothing but barking. As soon as we make a slight move, their true nature is revealed. The first beam of controllable nuclear fusion light must be ignited on the land of our nation. Chen Limin, dressed in a black coat, quietly walked into the Xishan base. This was the office exclusive to Elder Zhu. It was already midnight. Yet a secret guest had arrived. After 3 knocks, the host inside responded, and Chen Lining entered upon hearing the call. You are the young man from the confidential office. It's been a while. What brings you here? Elder Zhu raised an eyebrow upon seeing the visitor. He remembered that it was this young man who first reported Fang Jing's unusual behavior. Elder Zhu, ever since the attack in the Gulf, I've been working on intelligence. Chen Limin chuckled softly, explaining to Elder Zhu in a somewhat restrained yet excited tone. Our people followed the signal and traced it back to a certain country. And we've made progress recently. However, there's another piece of news that excites me even more. After expressing his excitement, Chen Limin handed over a sealed report to Elder Zhu with both hands. Intelligence from that side? Elder Zhu raised an eyebrow. You seem happy. It looks like good news. He said, using a small knife to open the seal, signed his name, and pulled out the document. But upon seeing the title of the first document, Elder Zhu's pupils constricted sharply, and a look of extreme interest appeared on his face. He read with interest. 5 major capitalists from Texas secretly bribed the commander of the Second Fleet and attempted to restart our petrochemical agreement? He chuckled lightly. It seems they're planning something. Gently placing the document down, Elder Zhu squinted at Chen Limin. I think we might be able to help them a bit. Our underground big brother must be quite eager to reconnect. Chapter 85. Every nation has its own circumstances. Why don't we give them another kick? Texas is an important energy-producing state. It's precisely because of this extraordinary resource advantage that this state has always had a rebellious streak. Whenever something happens with the federal government, it almost always flaunts its independence. In the past, this was merely a means to negotiate for benefits. However, that was then. Now, the situation has become rather peculiar. The 5 mining tycoons in Texas secretly bribed the severely damaged Second Fleet, which made Elder Zhu sense something unusual. The Second Fleet was the one that was prepared to provide support when the East Asia incident occurred. This fleet later retreated to the coast. Now it has been bought off by Texas tycoons. Moreover, these tycoons are preparing to restart trade in petrochemicals with our nation. The recent momentum of our nation has been quite aggressive. Texas is not willing to walk a dark path with the federal government. They still want to make money. Why accompany you down that path? Don't kid me. Does your federal government and the remaining states have such a large market and production capacity for me? When I was left without power during the snowstorm, other states were still watching the show, and they even rushed over to protect turtles. During that snowstorm, people really froze to death. The people of Texas are quite indifferent to the federal government and have grown increasingly disappointed with recent developments. Coupled with the substantial profits from the oil and energy sector, they feel that the federal authority is unnecessary. Given this foundational situation, Texas has great potential. No, in fact, the entire eastern coastal states have significant opportunities. After all, the eastern nation is an important market for them. Since the defeat in East Asia, trade between the two sides has plummeted for various reasons, and the eastern coastal states have been facing challenges as well. At this moment, there is indeed great potential. In the pavilion, Number 1 gently set down the intelligence report, although his laughter was subtle. However, the familiar Elder Zhu knew that he was quite pleased and very excited. Indeed, there is much to be gained here. Although we are not worried about technology threats from other countries thanks to the assistance of the Wandering Earth universe, it is true that countries on Earth can maintain world peace through a strategy of checks and balances. Elder Zhu looked towards the distant loft and murmured softly, "Let this be a gift of goodwill from us as humanity to our kind on Earth." Peace is indeed somewhat distant for humanity. However, if countries can achieve a state of balance, it would at least prevent large-scale hot wars from breaking out. With one side occupying a peninsula and maintaining balance with another, Europe and another major player also balancing each other. If the eastern nation were to split into two, the eastern coast would certainly not let go of Europe, locking the balance even more firmly, as they moved southward, using financial means to extract industrial capabilities from another country. Number 1 calmly poured himself a cup of tea, speaking in a neutral tone. At that time, the Eastern nation could remain outside the whirlwind, resting easy. Seeing the trend of unrest on the western coast, Number 1 decided to push back some plans. The results were encouraging. It seems that we need to give the situation on the west coast a little push. Elder Zhu understood Number 1's implication and smiled lightly, saying, "Leave this matter to me. I will notify the Ministry of Commerce to put on a show for them." "All right, Elder Zhu, I trust you with this. But do take care of your health." "Sure thing. In my lifetime, being able to witness the decline of the dominant power alongside the elder brother would be my greatest satisfaction. Haha, I'm off." Elder Zhu thought of happy things, laughed heartily, and stepped out. In early June, the Minister of Commerce from the Eastern nation called the Minister of Commerce from the other side. The conversation expressed goodwill from the Eastern nation. The other side's Minister of Commerce politely responded and indicated a willingness to cooperate. However, saying one thing and doing another has long been a tradition. The Minister of Commerce claimed cooperation, but he had no real authority. Just 1 hour after their conversation, the pharmaceutical complex from the other side announced a halt to the sale of various patented medicines to the Eastern nation. This was clearly a coordinated effort by the big capitalists on the Eastern coast, pressuring the government to take a hard stance against the Eastern nation. After all, even though they seem strong now, they can't completely ignore international order, can they? Refusing to back down, they declared, "We won't sell you any medicine." If this had happened in the past, the major power in the East would not have backed down so easily, at the very least. They would have taken some steps to ease the other party's emotions. However, the situation is completely different now. The Eastern nation has shown goodwill and expressed intentions to cooperate. But this is not just about surface-level diplomacy. Some regions in the central and eastern parts, which are primarily agricultural and predominantly inhabited by older demographics, can afford to be patient. The new industrial parks on the western coast, lacking a market, are bound to fail. When the Eastern nation expressed goodwill, those on the western coast were overjoyed, thinking the market was returning and money was coming back. But then, they were blocked by their own federal government. As the saying goes, cutting off someone's financial resources is akin to killing their parents. When profits reach a certain level, capital will dare to trample on all laws and morals. This is no longer just a matter of profit, it's a matter of survival. The states on the western coast, feeling deeply disappointed, saw some wealthy tycoons quietly gathering in Texas. A few of these tycoons met at a club in Texas under the guise of a gathering. "Fred has gone mad. He wants to drag us into hell. And my iron ore plant in Australia is on the verge of collapse. Oil extraction in our state has already stopped. We are no match for the low-priced oil from the Middle East. We must sell and transport the backlog of goods. My factory is losing money every day. We have to do something. We can't go on like this." Since relations with the Eastern nation have cooled to freezing point, losing the largest market has left these capitalists in agony. Once they see profits, they truly become reckless. During the Pacific War and World War II, when conflicts arose between certain nations, some of their forebears dared to take risks and trade arms. Not to mention now, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, Manton stood up. As a Texas oil tycoon, he waved his hand and shouted, "Gentlemen, Fred is dragging us toward death. Our factories, our businesses, our money are all shrinking rapidly. To hell with the federal government. To hell with national glory. We only want money. We only want money." Manton's voice was filled with anger and hysteria. They only wanted money, but that fool Fred had cut off their hopes. Since Fred had dashed their hopes, they felt no need to show him any respect. The federal government was no longer helpful to them. The Eastern nation is already building a prototype for controlled nuclear fusion. Without their market and with technology catching up, what hope do we have left? Hope? Manton saw not a glimmer of it. He deliberately threw out the topic, looking around at all the tycoons present. Not a single person could see hope for the nation. 1 year, we give Fred 1 year. If the Eastern nation truly succeeds, friends, let us face it. This nation is no longer worth our support. The federal government cannot fulfill its mission. Manton's voice turned cold. A government that cannot serve the interests of big capitalists. What use do they have for it? The wealthy capitalists on the Eastern coast have decisively taken action for their own interests. The political sphere has always been under their control, making it effortless for them to dominate. The navy of the Second Fleet has already been secured by individuals from a certain state, and now, seeing the signs of an alliance forming along the entire Eastern coast, they are in complete agreement. As for the army, that is even less of a concern. This country has never regarded retired soldiers as people. In fact, many places even cut benefits for them. Several major capitalists have promised to ensure their benefits are fully delivered. The army stationed near several states agreed without hesitation. However, the Air Force is a bit trickier. They usually enjoy the best benefits. And when it comes to just discussing treatment, it's hard to win them over. This matter will take time to negotiate. Fortunately, it only needs to be resolved within this year. My friends, I see countless riches waiting for us on the Eastern lands. Fred seems to be immersed in our fabricated notions of democracy and freedom, neglecting us completely. Manton stands at the center, dressed in an extremely gentlemanly suit, resembling a living medieval noble. He politely bows slightly, then coldly smirks and looks around. Clearly, he is mistaken. Democracy? If I remember correctly, this concept is a trophy from our victory over a certain large red nation. Ultimately, this land belongs to us. Now, we must reclaim our profits, our nation, and save our assets. For this, we will spare no effort. Capital knows no borders, no races, no nations, and no religions. When something stands in the way of its profits, it dares to scorn everything in this world. Here, it will reveal its hidden fangs that have been dormant for decades, showcasing its madness. This time, it will undoubtedly shake the world. In a certain base in the Western Mountains, Fang Jing has just finished his class. He has been taught by some of the world's top professors and scientists in rotation. His head feels like it might explode. Sometimes, he truly feels helpless. Leaning against the wall with Zhou Yuan, Fang Jing looks utterly disheartened. Suddenly, he realizes that the devil Zhou is just like that. At least he doesn't have to think. Mathematics is the real challenge. If you don't know it, you just don't. If you're too tired, just take a few days off. Zhou Yuan notices Fang Jing's current frustration, the feeling of not being able to learn no matter how hard you try. He deeply understands this from his own high school experience. Taking a break is out of the question. Even the mechanical dogs in the base are working hard. How can I stop? Fang Jing has a strong sense of pride. Although his vacation is ample, he has hardly taken a real day off. Old Master Zhu at 80 is still out and about. How can a young person like him take a break over a little pressure, regardless of what others do? Fang Jing will not allow himself such leniency. Sometimes, if you don't push yourself, you won't know where your limits lie. By the way, what have you learned recently? They've been discussing the hypothesis of parallel worlds in quantum physics. Fang Jing rubs his head. In the past, when faced with uncertainty, people would joke about quantum mechanics. Now, I am currently studying quantum mechanics, and it feels overwhelming. The experts are very interested in the hypothesis of parallel worlds, seemingly believing that there must be many of them. During discussions, I find it hard to interject. I recognize every character, but when they are all pieced together, I feel lost. Forget it. I can't explain it clearly. I rolled my eyes. I've learned, but not completely. I still don't grasp even the basics. Just then, I noticed a few researchers in white lab coats hurrying ahead, followed by soldiers seriously carrying a large black box. What is this? I wondered what was happening up front. It was the first barrier of the solar deity, utilizing technology from the wandering Earth world, which only the Shishan base can currently produce. I glanced over and saw the symbols on the box. The design of the solar deity bird indicated it was equipment for the controllable nuclear fusion prototype. Is this equipment crucial? What first barrier? I was somewhat confused and inquired. It's not just important. The materials provided by the wandering Earth resolved two significant issues of the first barrier, making it a key factor for the success of controllable nuclear fusion. I smiled slightly and explained, let me put it this way, it is because of this material that we can smoothly start constructing the prototype. This material is the final piece needed to complete the controllable nuclear fusion technology in our country. It is extremely important and critical, so it cannot afford any mistakes. After being dispatched from the Shishan base, a special operations team will escort it the entire way. I see. No wonder it's so important. I was gaining insights and couldn't help but marvel. I know a bit about controllable nuclear fusion. With it, electricity will only get cheaper in the future. People will only need to pay for fuel purification, equipment operation, and electricity transportation costs. Sounds like a lot, right? But if spread out per person, it will definitely be much cheaper than current electricity costs. Aside from combat experience and some scientific knowledge, I don't know much more. From a basic livelihood perspective, this is a significant benefit. After all, modern life relies heavily on electricity. Just think about electric vehicles. If in the future it only costs 6 units to fully charge a car for a range of 2,000 kilometers, the living costs would be unimaginable. Of course, the benefits don't stop there, but just this thought alone would excite many. Yes, it should happen this year at most. I smirked. This is a big event, one that could change the course of human history. Taking advantage of the break, I chatted with my friend for the entire afternoon. By evening, I suddenly found myself unconsciously focusing my thoughts in my mind because that machine had suddenly shown signs of movement. In the consciousness, there was originally only a small red dot in the sky. Suddenly, above the small dot, a dot of the same size appeared. Fang Jing estimated that this small dot represented the new universe he could access after reaching the orbit of Jupiter. What puzzled him was that the anomalies were continuing. In addition to the red and white dots of equal size, there was an even smaller white dot extending from the illuminated red dot, resembling branches reaching out. This white dot was noticeably smaller than the other two. Fang Jing stared at the sudden appearance of this dot, filled with astonishment. If the lit red dot represented the world of the wandering Earth, a world he had already visited, then the unlit white dot represented a world yet to be opened. However, there was only one mission, to reach the orbit of Jupiter. Why were there two white dots appearing here? Two worlds yet to be opened. Fang Jing widened his eyes, incredulously attaching his consciousness to the large white dot. He pressed on, moving toward the orbit of Jupiter. Familiar prompts appeared. There was a prompt. So what about this small white dot? This prompt could actually be replayed? Fang Jing was excited. Things were changing. Change was good, which meant he would make more discoveries. Without hesitation, he immediately directed his consciousness to the even smaller white dot. Indeed, at the moment his consciousness focused on it, a series of inexplicable prompts surfaced in Fang Jing's mind. What was this? Chapter 87. No, you just give me a string of numbers? Who can guess that? Oh, there really are experts. The amazing machine in his mind underwent strange changes. Not only did two white dots, one large and one small, appear, but interestingly, the arrangement of these two small dots was peculiar. The smaller white seemed to be a branch splitting off from the main trunk, like a vassal. It was known that the large red dot represented the universe of the wandering Earth he had already visited, while the large white dot was a new world that could only be opened by reaching Jupiter. Red represented what had already been visited, while white represented what had yet to be unlocked. The large white dot and the large red dot were on the same level. Logically, this small white dot should represent a world that had not yet been opened, and its importance was lower than that of the universe of the wandering Earth. Fang Jing's consciousness paid attention to the changes occurring in the machine in his mind. He was brainstorming, constantly guessing. He felt that this time he was almost certain. Moreover, when his consciousness touched the small white dot, he received an astonishing piece of information. I must immediately meet with the expert group. There is a new discovery. After a moment of distraction, Fang Jing suddenly stood up, excited. He hurriedly bid farewell to Zhou Yuan and strode out. Zhou Yuan was startled by Fang Jing's sudden outburst, his whole body shuddering. When he came back to his senses, a big question mark appeared above his head. Hey, this kid startled him. Fang Jing arrived at the expert group and shared all the changes he had discovered. Your analysis is quite right. The larger dot may be the main trunk, and the smaller dot may be a branch. However, we currently only have access to the world of the wandering Earth. The sample size is too small to distinguish the differences. Zhang Sun is a theoretical physicist, and he was the first to speak up. After listening to Fang Jing, he could only shake his head helplessly and record this information in the database. As for the rest, due to the small sample size, it could only be considered a suspicion. However, there was another piece of news that might be related to that small white dot world. Fang Jing knew that this news was the main highlight. The previous piece of information was merely an appetizer. The large white dot had given him a hint to go to a certain orbit, but that small white dot had another hint. Another hint. Zhang Sun's eyes widened. Hints. In Fang Jing's consciousness, the machine provided hints that could indicate significant events. The first hint had been completed, opening a space gate to the wandering Earth universe. The second hint was not yet completed, but it was highly likely to connect to a new parallel universe. Now, the third hint had appeared, and this time, it was also very likely to connect to a new parallel universe. Zhang Sun felt dizzy from excitement. Just one wandering Earth world had brought such changes to this universe. Now, two more had come at once. This was simply unimaginable. What was the content of the hint? Zhang Sun's eyes widened, his breath quickened, and he anxiously looked at Fang Jing. This concerned a world. It was related to the future of this universe. If they could establish a connection, just by opening the space gate, even an ancient society could provide endless resources to this universe. It was extremely important. Zhang Sun took just 1 second to determine that this news was incredibly significant. The information this time was very strange. When it mentioned the hint given by the machine, Fang Jing had a peculiar expression. He scratched his head and explained in a somewhat bewildered manner. The hint from the machine this time was actually a string of numbers. 209-307-40403-3004. Zhang Sun also looked baffled. What was this? As a quantum physicist, he couldn't decipher the numerical code. What on earth did this long string of numbers represent? It didn't seem like a QQ number, right? Fang Jing didn't understand either, so the two could only look at each other in silence. It was obvious that neither of them could comprehend it. Fortunately, someone in the expert group immediately reacted. It was latitude and longitude. The leading 2 and 04 indicated the direction. A middle-aged man with a distinctive strong hairstyle, after listening to the two, was deep in thought. Suddenly, he looked up in surprise, and his head shone with a dazzling golden light under the reflection of the lamps. Latitude and longitude. Fang Jing and Zhang Sun turned in shock, but the result was a sharp glare that instinctively made them raise their hands to shield their eyes. Wow, so bright. Indeed. The leading 2 indicated west, 9,374 west longitude. 04 indicated north, 3,304 north latitude. This prominent figure's tone became more confident as he pushed his glasses up with his right hand, smirking, and suddenly waved his hand to input his estimated location rapidly on a military satellite map. So, when the machine provided the location prompt, a massive image was projected onto the office's giant screen. At the same time, a small crosshair aimed at an unfamiliar piece of land. The confident bald man raised his head and loudly announced the results. This location is in a certain region, Texas. Sure enough, the military satellite also provided an answer. But the satellite from the military information database was evidently more professional and detailed. Specifically, it indicated, this location is in a certain region, Texas, at the Compass Biological Laboratory. The mention of the Compass Biological Laboratory caused Fang Jing to raise an eyebrow, looking at the building depicted on the map, remaining silent and thoughtful. Could this string of numbers really be interpreted this way? If it were true, why this biological laboratory? Zhang Sun furrowed his brow. Although the bald man's analysis was quite accurate, could it really be interpreted in this manner? As it stood, this was the only conclusion I could think of. The bald man shrugged. This was the only answer he could deduce within his knowledge. His opinion had been put forth. The rest was left to the experts. Dimensions and coordinates seemed to be the most plausible at the moment. Fang Jing stared at the Compass Biological Laboratory displayed on the map, gradually forming an idea in his mind. Was there some notable research result within this biological laboratory? According to military network information, the Compass Biological Laboratory was affiliated with the military as a biochemical weapons research base, and the secrecy level of this base was the highest. However, in the 1970s, this laboratory had been embroiled in a shocking scandal. Zhang immediately accessed information from the military network and pulled up a black and white newspaper. The newspaper looked quite old. The front page featured a close-up of a terrifying-looking elk, accompanied by exaggerated text. Shocking news. Mysterious virus leak from the Compass laboratory causes nearby elk to contract a deadly virus. Staring at the eerie photograph of the elk, Fang Jing felt a chill run down his spine. The elk looked genuinely unsettling. Resisting the urge to look away, Fang Jing continued reading. The information went on to explain. In 2014, during the Syrian war, a certain hacker group infiltrated the Defense Department and stole data from it. We intercepted the data stream that was sent back. This newspaper is the only report on the leak from the Compass Biological Laboratory. All other information has been sealed by the military and remains unknown. After reading this, Fang Jing's expression turned blank. This laboratory had serious issues. What a coincidence. It couldn't be so coincidental. This string of data converted to coordinates perfectly pointed to this laboratory. And coincidentally, the laboratory was so mysterious. Perhaps the target was indeed here. Fang Jing suddenly looked up, his eyes blazing. Upon seeing the information about the Compass Biological Laboratory on the military network, he became even more convinced of the bald man's earlier speculation. That string of numbers likely pointed to this very place. Chapter 88. Since we are compatriots, not a single one can die. The Compass Biological Laboratory. This is a mysterious biological laboratory affiliated with the military. All information regarding this experiment is highly confidential. And to this day, there has been no declassification. The only relevant information was intercepted from a hacker in 2014. Such a suspicious laboratory raises many questions. Indeed, it seems too coincidental, but Zhang Sun found it somewhat believable. However, he helplessly thought, that is the territory of a certain country, and it is a military laboratory. How can we explore it? His question is very realistic. That is indeed their territory. They have already suffered a defeat and are in a bad mood. Moreover, biological laboratories are extremely sensitive. If they want to make contact, there's not even a window, let alone a door. It is simply impossible. This matter is beyond our capability to resolve. I will report the information we just discussed to the higher-ups and let them deal with it. The bald leader chuckled lightly. These matters don't require their concern. Indeed, Fang Jing also smiled lightly. He didn't need to worry about how to handle this matter. This is the benefit of having strong backing. If Fang Jing were alone, he might never complete this task in his lifetime. After all, it is a military biological laboratory. From another perspective, it is like a person from that country trying to breach the Great Wall of another nation. Do you think that is possible? They would be doomed. This time, the destination is in that country. Haha. Let us see what plans Elder Zhu has to solve this problem. Fang Jing chuckled softly. This problem is not easy to solve. However, the time and benefits involved are much greater than going to Jupiter. Fang Jing felt that the higher-ups should not miss this opportunity. This is a world of its own. The temptation is something no one can resist. At Zijing Pavilion, in the conference room, Elder Zhu was discussing with the Minister of Commerce. Elder Zhu, the task you assigned to me has been completed. The Minister of Commerce smiled lightly. Although somewhat confused, he reported earnestly. I not only expressed goodwill to the Minister of Commerce from that country on the surface, but also released goodwill for cooperation to the states on the West Coast, and opened the door. However, at this point, the minister's expression changed slightly. That country is being ungrateful. Their goodwill has been met with indifference. As you know, the pharmaceutical companies there have begun to impose an embargo. The other party's intention is clear. They don't want to play along. Well, you did well. Elder Zhu said nothing more, just smiled faintly, and poured himself a pot of tea. The minister looked puzzled. How could this be considered a success when negotiations have broken down? Could it be? The minister's eyes widened suddenly. He understood that Elder Zhu never expected the other party to agree. This is about creating a situation. Haha, it's good that you understand. Continue to release goodwill. But don't let them truly agree. Handle it well. Seeing his expression change, Elder Zhu chuckled. He took a sip of tea, feeling extremely pleased. The plan has succeeded perfectly. Now, there is already a conflict between the West Coast and other regions. Next, as soon as a decisive blow is struck, the interests at stake will drive those on the West Coast completely insane. This blow of controlled nuclear fusion can open up a new world, allowing our collaborators to thrive while our adversaries perish. The merchants on the West Coast are quite astute. They know how to choose wisely. With a few chuckles, Old Zhu felt that life was becoming increasingly hopeful. Just then, the door to the conference room was hurriedly pushed open. In came the Secretary General, looking anxious with cold sweat on his forehead. After catching his breath, he quickly walked over to Old Zhu and whispered something in his ear. Upon hearing the content, Old Zhu's eyes widened in excitement and confusion. After processing these emotions, he burst into laughter and slapped his thigh. Texas? Ha ha ha, what a great location. Go tell Zhao Guangyao that this matter is definitely settled. Yes. The Secretary General nodded immediately, smiled slightly at the Minister of Commerce, and prepared to leave. The Minister of Commerce, having completed his business, decided to follow suit. This left Old Zhu alone, his eyes bright and full of spirit. In the Compass Biological Laboratory, Texas. If it were elsewhere, in the Midwest or on the East Coast, it might indeed be challenging. But in Texas, there is great potential for this matter. Don't forget what Old Zhu is doing now. He is preparing to make significant moves, ready to engage with influential figures. When the time comes, if the situation deteriorates, who do you think the states on the West Coast, reliant on a vast market, will turn to? At that time, It will be a straightforward exchange of benefits. They will be allowed to enter the market, and the price will be the Compass Biological Laboratory. Can they refuse? What does this laboratory even matter compared to the profits of the big capitalists? Allowing foreign influence over these matters would compromise sovereignty. But is that more important than the profits of the big capitalists? Not at all. So, a few months ago, this would have been a daunting challenge for Old Zhu. But that was then. Now, this is no longer an issue. What kind of world will this be? Old Zhu was filled with anticipation at first. However, after a moment of thought, he lowered his eyelids and sighed deeply. The world of the wandering earth has already been enough for us to digest for a long time. One cannot bite off more than they can chew. Instead, I hope this new world can assist the world of the wandering earth to help our dear and respectable compatriots. Old Zhu had long conversations with Zhou Zhe from the wandering earth world. Since their first meeting, he had no doubts about their shared identity as comrades and compatriots. A journey of 500 years, a long march of 25,000 miles. This spiritual connection surpasses all. We share the same culture and civilization, upholding the same spirit. Since they are comrades and compatriots, we should do everything we can to help. However, the crisis in the wandering earth is immense. The sun is about to explode. The technology in this universe is inherently inferior to that of others. Perhaps the only way to help is to offer refuge. But the earth is so small. Where can it accommodate 8 billion people? Not to mention 8 billion, there isn't even enough space for the 4 billion people who must be saved. For this reason, he and his colleague even considered relocating people first and allowing them to transform the vast Northwest region. If the entire Northwest could be transformed, accommodating 4 billion people wouldn't be too much of a problem. But that is the Northwest. There are too many challenges to face. This matter can only be pondered gradually. Fortunately, there is still time. Reflecting on the original story, where many compatriots perished due to the wandering earth plan, the old man Zhu couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. These are living people, and they are compatriots. He cannot bear this. He will not allow such things to truly happen. The determination in Zhu's eyes was unprecedentedly strong. Chapter 89. Combination Attack. Of course, there are combos. At the end of June, the Minister of Commerce continued to show goodwill, rejecting the demands of a certain pharmaceutical consortium and proposing specific cooperation intentions. Without a doubt, it was yet another case of warm faces meeting cold backs. This time, it was actually the domestic populace that expressed dissatisfaction. After all, continually offering goodwill while being ignored is utterly humiliating. Moreover, the country is currently in a victorious position. What is going on? This Minister of Commerce has issues. This is the second time. They don't even acknowledge us, yet he still smiles and approaches? A thorough investigation is recommended. If the other side refuses to cooperate, do we really need their products? Exactly. Now they are trying to block us. While we can directly purchase agricultural products from South America, the entire Pacific is under our control, and they still think they are the boss. After 2 consecutive gestures of goodwill were disregarded by the other side, it instead made the country appear submissive. Clearly, it is the other side that has been defeated. The Minister of Commerce also vaguely sensed the dangerous atmosphere domestically. After completing his tasks, he immediately withdrew from the spotlight and disappeared from the news entirely. In the past, everyone would have definitely criticized him for this. However, fortunately, at this moment, the South China Sea Bay and controllable nuclear fusion have attracted everyone's attention. During this period, nothing could shake the construction of the Jinwu experimental reactor. Even abroad, it has garnered immense importance. In mid-June, several delegations visited the country. The next day, news of their investment of 200 billion in the manufacturing sector was released, and everyone broke into smiles. They were anxious. They were in a hurry. Fortunately, the Minister of Commerce managed to stabilize the situation. Your Majesties, controllable nuclear fusion technology is becoming the mainstream energy source for humanity, and it appears to be an unstoppable global trend. The minister explained softly in a closed-door meeting, we cannot stop the emergence of this technology. I understand why everyone is anxious. However, the countries in the Middle East need not be so hasty. Controlled nuclear fusion technology is complex, expensive, and highly sophisticated. Promoting it from a certain country to the world will undoubtedly be a lengthy process. The duration of this process depends on breakthroughs made by other nations. Even if this country successfully develops controlled nuclear fusion, it would not foolishly share the technology. It will likely focus on advancing its own research further and only consider selling complete systems once an insurmountable technological gap has been established. Therefore, the timing of any collapse in certain regions is not determined by this country's initial breakthrough, but rather by the second one. This understanding is clear to the representatives of those regions. Thus, they left feeling somewhat reassured and even made significant investments in this country. Such news is what the people of this country are truly concerned about. In the grand competition, controlled nuclear fusion is akin to the steam engine of the New World. If successful, this could lead to the emergence of a nation spanning the entire solar system, not just an empire with no setting sun. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, discussions are ongoing. All right, don't sigh too heavily, young Zhou. To achieve great things, one must be able to withstand public scrutiny. The elder chuckled lightly and solemnly patted the shoulder of the Minister of Commerce. He shook his head and offered comfort. The public is easily influenced by limited information. You just need to know you are doing the right thing. I understand, elder. I've noticed that major capitalists on the West Coast have started to reach out to me through Australia and other regions. The Minister of Commerce quickly adjusted his mindset. The elder was right. As long as he was true to himself, that was enough. He sat up straight and explained. After several rejections, they can no longer sit still. Now, we just need to wait for the news from the east. Once there is success, I will make my move immediately. Minister Zhou's eyes were sharp. He was ready to act. Once the announcement of success was made, he would follow up with a decisive strike during the most turbulent times in the stock market. A single lethal move. All right, we will fully support you on our end. The elder nodded and offered a few more words of reassurance. The two then parted ways, each embarking on their own battles. In the Gulf region, 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. What can be accomplished in 3 months? In some parts of the world, it might mean repairing a road or building a small bridge. However, in the world's largest industrial nation, 3 months saw the rapid emergence of a massive experimental park. The core of the controlled nuclear fusion facility has already been topped out. Now, the countdown to ignite the fusion core has begun. On the outskirts, crowds have gathered, eagerly watching from a distance with binoculars, excitedly observing the towering structure in the park. It has been completed, and the internal pipelines have been installed. Final touches are being made, and once testing is finished, scientists will move in. Who is responsible for this equipment? It must be a significant figure. After all, this is controlled nuclear fusion. Is nuclear fusion just about boiling water? Of course. The history of human development is essentially the history of boiling water. More boiling water? The news has shocked the world. The once calm atmosphere has immediately stirred up waves. This platform has also become incredibly popular. Perhaps seeing this as an opportunity, the relevant authorities have decided that once the project is completed, the first ignition will be broadcast live globally. This clearly demonstrates confidence in the project. After the live broadcast plan was established, information about controllable nuclear fusion was also released. The entire main body of the project has a radius of 30 meters and a height of 40 meters, making it a true giant. However, it is considerably smaller than its international counterparts. Furthermore, the authorities have stated that this equipment is intended as a prototype for controllable nuclear fusion, and if successful, it will serve as the design scheme for commercial reactors. This is an official announcement. If there hadn't been a breakthrough in technology, they wouldn't dare to label it so boldly. Seeing this, the public was thrilled. Even more astonishing was the section on the power generation method. The power generation method combines magneto-hydrodynamic generation with steam turbines, with an expected efficiency of 82. Is this for real? Wait, is it really not just boiling water anymore? Incredible, it turns out it's not primarily about boiling water. Ha ha ha, a major breakthrough. Finally, we don't just boil water. But wait, we still need to boil water, as indicated by the steam turbine smirking in the background. It's still about boiling water. What a twist. The development history of human energy usage can be summarized in one phrase. It has been a history of various ways to boil water. And now, controllable nuclear fusion is supposedly not about boiling water. No, it still involves boiling water, but just as an auxiliary power source. Many knowledgeable netizens are utterly astonished. The magneto-hydrodynamic generation technology is no easy feat compared to controllable nuclear fusion. Yet, the country has managed to highlight both technologies at once. This has led even the citizens to wonder if something extraordinary has been discovered on the far side of the moon. After all, this technological explosion is happening at an unprecedented pace, almost as if it were free. Moreover, it's becoming increasingly sci-fi. Chapter 90. With controllable nuclear fusion now a reality. Preparations for supporting engines must be made early. At the end of October, at the Western Base, Fang Jing finally completed a period of theoretical study. Next, he will continue practical training in the laboratory at the base. Life at the base is undoubtedly a mix of pain and joy. The joy comes from the fact that the professors and experts here are truly knowledgeable and serious about teaching, providing genuine expertise. However, the pain lies in the strict requirements from the professors. Regardless of who Fang Jing is, as long as he studies under them, the expectations are set high. Fortunately, Fang Jing has persevered through the challenges. Now, it can be said that knowledge has begun to empower his mind. Brother Jean, what is this thing? Fang Jing has been transferred to the power laboratory today as an intern researcher. As soon as he walked in, he saw a strange machine placed in the center of the experimental workshop, connected with various cables. The machine is cylindrical, with 2 concentric circles at the tail end. Looking like a nozzle? Could it possibly be an engine? Oh, this is an electromagnetic pulse engine, developed in collaboration with a parallel world. Zhang Xueping is Fang Jing's internship supervisor. He smiled at Fang Jing, looking at the engine with a kind gaze, as if he were looking at his own child. Originally, we weren't able to produce this. However, after bringing back the fully pulsed laser machine tool from the parallel world, manufacturing it is no longer a problem. Hearing about the electromagnetic pulse engine, Fang Jing's eyes widened instantly. Electric propulsion, radiation engine, space navigation. These 3 terms immediately occupied his mind. Is this prepared for space? Fang Jing paused, feeling a dryness in his mouth. That's right, it's for space navigation. Zhang Xueping answered Fang Jing's question confidently and without reservation. This engine weighs 4 tons and has a thrust of 18 tons, making it a perfect choice for spacecraft. Our laboratory's task is to test the stability of this engine and strive to complete its final design as soon as possible. Speaking of final design, a brilliant light flashed in Zhang Xueping's eyes. Space is no longer far away for them. It can be said that they are merely a step away. Once controllable nuclear fusion is achieved, combined with this engine, Entering space directly from the ground will no longer be a challenge. The first interstellar sailing ship is not far off. The era of great maritime exploration in the universe is approaching. Fang Jing also realized this. In the past, he thought that even with the help of the parallel world, it would take at least a year or two to reach space. But his somewhat radical idea seemed surprisingly conservative to the traditionalists. After the scientific team learned about the existence of the space gate, they wasted no time and immediately brought back the most advanced machine tool from the other world. This leap in productivity is simply qualitative. Never did he expect that entering space would be so close. Controllable nuclear fusion and the electromagnetic pulse engine. This two-piece set for the spacecraft has been assembled. What else could be difficult? Space is truly within reach. Mentor, what can I do? Looking at the prototype of the electromagnetic engine in front of him, Fang Jing's eyes were filled with enthusiasm. He excitedly looked at Zhang Xueping, thinking only about how quickly they could finalize this thing. Ha, Fang Jing. Our main task is to determine the stability of this engine. Come, help me record the data, and I'll demonstrate it for you. Together, we'll completely conquer the heart of this spacecraft. Mid-November, Nanhai Bay. The eyes of the entire world are focused here. The prototype of the controllable nuclear fusion reactor in the Jinwu area has been completed. Today marks the official ignition test. The energy department kept its promise and started the live broadcast right on time. In an instant, over 500 million people rushed into the stream. It has begun. It has begun. This is the Jinwu reactor. Many people are outside. Who are they waiting for? Surely, there are important figures present. This is a moment that will go down in history. The convoy has arrived. The convoy has arrived. At the scene, outside the main control room of the Jinwu reactor, all the crew members stood excitedly in the hall, looking towards the entrance. Today is the ignition of the controllable nuclear fusion prototype. They, all the crew members, felt a great honor. This is humanity's first controllable nuclear fusion prototype. Today's success will determine the future direction of the world. As members of the control team for the Jinwu experimental reactor, who wouldn't be excited or proud? They share in this glory. The black convoy slowly stopped in front of the control room. The door of the front vehicle opened, and a suited bodyguard immediately opened the door of the protected vehicle in the middle. A familiar figure to the people emerged slowly from the car. In the live stream, upon seeing this person, the comments exploded. It's the leader. He has come personally. It would be strange if he didn't come. This is even more important than landing on the moon or Mars. Ignition, ignition, ignition. It's about to start. How exciting. Inside the car, the leader was also feeling a surge of emotions. So much has happened in the past year. Unbeknownst to him, the country had already broken through the blockade. In the blink of an eye, they had stood at the pinnacle of the world's nations. Yes, at this moment, the nation in this universe undoubtedly stands at the top of the world. Thinking of this, the leader straightened his back, his gaze deep and with firm steps. He walked into the hall. At this moment, everyone in the hall was looking at him, waiting for this elder. Arriving at the center of the hall, he faced Zhu Lao, Zhang Xiaoming, Wu Yud, and Jiang Su, who silently watched him. The leader nodded towards the four, then glanced around, his eyes kindly sweeping over all the staff gathered. A look of approval appeared on his face. He was genuinely proud of all those who fought for the nation, whether present or not. Comrades, with deep emotion, the leader spoke passionately. We have missed too much in the past, which is why our predecessors suffered greatly. However, they persevered and created a sky for us. Now, seeing you all, seeing the entire project team, I am very happy and proud. Because I see that your generation has taken on the burdens of your predecessors. The future belongs to you. Your efforts will be forever remembered by our descendants. The leader said no more. With tears in his eyes, he suddenly turned sharply to Jiang Su and called out loudly, Jiang Su, come here. Jiang Su responded loudly and stepped forward, visibly excited with tightly clenched fists. Now it's up to you. His voice softened as he patted Jiang Su's shoulder heavily. Don't worry, I absolutely have no problem. Jiang Su had supervised the entire construction process of the Jinwu project, so he was full of confidence. It was only now that everyone in the live broadcast realized that the person in charge of the Jinwu project was actually Jiang Su, the one who was rumored to have stolen data from a major international project. Chapter 91, Controlled Nuclear Fusion Technology, Ignited. Jiang Su appeared in the center of the live broadcast camera, entrusted with an important responsibility. Before the eyes of the global media, everyone now knew that Jiang Su was the general director of the Jinwu Controlled Nuclear Fusion Project. And prior to this, Jiang Su had still been burdened with the accusation of stealing data. This left not only the media present stunned. The barrage of comments witnessing history in the live chat suddenly stopped, creating a vacuum. The audience worldwide was also in shock. However, the actions on site did not pause. An elder present patted Jiang Su's shoulder heavily, his face filled with affirmation and expectation. Today was the day of the first ignition of Jinwu. You have worked hard these past few months. This phrase held profound meaning. Jiang Su's eyes instantly brimmed with tears. However, as a man, he did not shed tears easily. With a determined gaze, he solemnly replied to the elder, I will surely live up to the trust placed in me. After Jinwu, I will dedicate myself to learning and mastering more technologies. Jiang Su had already joined a significant project. His words were meant to assure the elder that he would redeem his honor and devote himself wholeheartedly to his work. All right, let's not keep everyone waiting. Let's head to the control room. The elder nodded in satisfaction. At that moment, everyone who had been in shock began to react. The media present were particularly restless. Jiang Su, that was Jiang Su, who had been convicted of theft in a certain country. Now he had become the head of the first controllable nuclear fusion prototype in human history. What a drama. This conflict, this contrast, this spectacle excited the keen journalists deeply. Big news. At the same time, online, netizens were in an uproar. I knew it. Jiang Su could not have stolen the data. Those who accused him are just slandering him. The project is nothing of value to steal. They sought to clear Jiang Su's name, insisting he was wronged and innocent. We misjudged Professor Jiang. He is a good person. It must have been a ploy by certain parties to suppress him. Those who slandered Professor Jiang, come out and apologize. This was the best way to restore his reputation. Jiang Su now stood in front of Jinwu without needing to say a word. All the accusations and slanders imposed upon him had turned into jokes. Because he is the head of the Jinwu controllable nuclear fusion prototype. This is the most advanced controllable nuclear fusion technology in this universe. Compared to it, ITER is like a frail infant still in its cradle. With the technology of an adult, why would Jiang Su look at such a weak infant? So why does he still have charges against him? If he is not at fault, then those who impose these charges must have ulterior motives. The outcome is obvious. Since Jiang Su took on the role of head of Jinwu, he already knew this result. He led the elder into the control room. Xiao Jiang, I won't waste time talking. Let's get started. When they arrived at the control room, the elder was not prepared to say much more. He, along with Elder Zhu and others, took their seats in the observation area, quietly observing as all the researchers took their positions. The remaining time was for Jiang Su and the others to perform. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now November 12th, 2024, 8:16 a.m. Everyone present must remember this time. I now announce that the ignition ceremony for Jinwu officially begins. In the main control room of Jinwu, Jiang Su stood in front of the central control panel, his expression serious as he scanned the entire room. It was time to start the ignition. With Jiang Su's command given, all system researchers on site immediately began their preparations. Calibration was starting, and the reactor was checked as normal. The first wall was checked as normal. The heat dissipation system was functioning normally. Personnel around the discharge tower had been cleared. Reporting to the head, each team was ready. Finally, after the information was compiled by the commander and the review confirmed that there were no issues with the calibration, he reported excitedly to Jiang Su, stating, all procedures have been checked, and the equipment can operate. Jiang Su nodded vigorously, his tone firm and resolute. Begin discharge heating. With a command, a loud clang echoed. A buzzing sound instantly erupted. The audience in the live broadcast clearly heard this muffled sound. This was their first time hearing and seeing the operation of controllable nuclear fusion equipment. Everyone widened their eyes, staring intently at the screen, not wanting to miss any details. The amperage heating was completed. They began to inject deuterium-tritium gas fuel. The magnetic field strength rapidly increased. And the temperature inside the tokamak was also rising rapidly due to the injection of high-temperature plasma. 10 million degrees, 30 million degrees. The temperature kept rising. 50 million degrees. This was already the temperature of the sun, but that was not enough. 80 million degrees. Still not enough. The temperature continued to rise. Until, in the immense magnetic field, the inner chamber temperature reached 1.6 billion degrees. 1.6 billion degrees Celsius. A temperature that even the sun cannot reach. This is Jinwu. This is the artificial sun. The temperature has reached, and all deuterium-tritium has been transformed into plasma, ready for ignition. After lifting the protective covers off a series of buttons, Jiang Su saw that the heat dissipation system was working normally and immediately pressed each one without hesitation. Beep, 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 beep. The ignition command has been issued. Suddenly, an AI-generated female voice sprang forth. The next moment, a high-energy laser beam shot out from the laser generator, striking the interior of the designated chamber. In an incredibly short amount of time, fusion occurred. A tremendous energy, originating from the depths of a star, was suddenly born in the fusion reaction. Controlled nuclear fusion ignition had truly succeeded. The entire system began to operate frantically. The discharge tower outside the core crackled as massive currents pierced the air, swirling and dancing like a thunder dragon that appeared out of nowhere. The discharge was successful, and the magnetic fluid generator was operating normally. As the final announcement came through the wireless channel, Jiang Su fiercely waved his fist. It was successful. The ignition was successful, and the system began to discharge. We did it. We succeeded. Controlled nuclear fusion succeeded. The fusion self-sustaining success, with the first wall temperature now maintained at a constant 26 degrees, the first wall held strong. Ha ha ha, I never expected to witness the success of controlled nuclear fusion in my lifetime. In the main control room, looking at the data on the console, the researchers who had some free time jumped up excitedly, clapping wildly. It really succeeded. Controlled nuclear fusion truly succeeded. This is not a dream. Right before their eyes, they achieved ignition and discharge success. History has opened a new chapter. Chapter 92. Everything is ready. The show is about to begin. In the main control of the controlled nuclear fusion, all personnel present were in tears of joy, unable to contain their excitement. Even the usually composed leader was clenching his hands together, his eyes filled with excitement. Although he had already known the outcome, when controlled nuclear fusion was practically realized before him, he was still deeply shocked. Just this building-sized device could supply power to 2 provinces. With just over 20 units, it could power the entire region. The future has arrived. We are now in the era of the fourth energy revolution under controlled nuclear fusion. The future is in the hands of the region. Achieving such a milestone during his tenure brought the leader immense relief and endless smiles. Since taking over the heavy responsibility from his predecessors, he had worked diligently, fearing any problems. Now, he finally had an achievement that lived up to the expectations of his predecessors. While the researchers in the control room cheered in the live broadcast room. Although the viewers could not understand the data on the control screen, they could grasp the excitement of the researchers. This is it. This is success. Amazing. Controlled nuclear fusion has succeeded. The future is here. Welcome everyone to the future. Developing controlled nuclear fusion, breaking out of Earth to colonize the universe. I am ready. I am ready. The era of cosmic exploration is upon us. We have mastered the key to endless energy, opening the door, and the universe is waiting for us. The ignition and discharge success of controlled nuclear fusion is a news weight that far exceeds the explosion of the first atomic bomb in the history of humanity. This is an existence that can be compared to the first time humans created fire. It can be said that controllable nuclear fusion is the new era's way for humanity to create fire by friction. As soon as news media from various countries outside learned of this, they quickly began crafting headlines. Major breakthrough. Controllable nuclear fusion in the South China Sea successfully ignited. Jiangsu. Data thief? No. The chief responsible person for the controllable nuclear fusion prototype. The flame of hope for humanity. The flame of the future is lit. The future has arrived. This time we are at the forefront. This time, in the era of cosmic exploration, the nation is leading the way. Isn't this enough to excite the people? Almost instantly, the news spread widely, reaching everyone. The Golden Crow, a symbol of the sun in ancient lore, has finally descended to the mortal realm, becoming a man-made sun for humanity's use. After ignition, the controllable nuclear fusion prototype continuously utilized deuterium and tritium, with reactions ongoing. When people paid attention again, they received even more uplifting news. The experiment lasted for 15 days. The first verification phase of the controllable nuclear fusion prototype has concluded. All indicators met the standards, and the design of the commercial demonstration reactor and fuel supply industry line officially began. The nation has officially entered the countdown to the era of controllable nuclear fusion power generation. Within 15 days of the successful experiment, the Minister of Commerce changed his previous stance and announced the suspension of trade with the other side due to government obstruction. This almost severed ties with major companies. Instantly, companies on the West Coast, which had relied on the market, felt as if the sky had fallen. Moreover, the Minister of Commerce made a decisive move, stating he would negotiate with East Asia to jointly expel interests from the other side in the region. The interests in East Asia are astronomical. At least for the major capitalists on the West Coast, this is their lifeline. Once this news broke, they immediately understood it was time to make a decision. If they delayed any longer, these capitalists would be bled dry. This could not continue. In the same club, a figure stood on a platform, his voice cold and his eyes gleaming with intensity. He exclaimed in frustration, Fred has once again refused to restore trade relations with the Eastern country. The Eastern country is taking predictable actions to withdraw our interests in East Asia and Southeast Asia. Although we lost the war, the shares of major companies are still in our hands. We absolutely cannot lose these profits. Absolutely not. As a major capitalist, he had profits everywhere and would not allow his assets to diminish like this. He was right. It was time to take action. A director whose stock prices had plummeted stood up even more excitedly, shouting, we have already bribed the Coast Guard, the Second Fleet, and the Army. General Howard will become the Air Force commander of the new republic. Everything is ready. We must take action now. My assets are shrinking every day, damn it. With him speaking out, the anger on the faces of those gathered is palpable. Fred, the federal government, is gambling with their lives against a major power in the East. If they could win, it would be acceptable to profit from the spoils. However, it's clear they cannot win this time. They are destined to become cannon fodder. With no hope of victory, they have become sacrifices, which they absolutely cannot allow. Since Fred is merciless, they cannot be blamed for being unjust. Fred must bear ultimate responsibility for what happens today. Manton snorted coldly, raised his hand to silence everyone, and then shouted, the federal government can no longer protect our interests. It has lost its original purpose and become our grave. Now, friends fighting for freedom, let us fight for our freedom and future. Manton's voice was passionate, growing louder with each word. By the end, he nearly shouted the last sentence. His fervent emotions completely infected everyone present. Fight for our freedom and future. Down with the federal government. Let Fred see the consequences of offending us. We absolutely cannot be coerced by the federal government. Factories must resume operations, and money must flow into our pockets. A group of capitalists, whose assets had suffered severe blows, gathered together. They were agitated, waving their scarves. Some cursed, others shouted angrily, and some had looks of determination in their eyes. Manton watched this scene and then looked up at the second floor of the club. On the second floor were the true rulers of the West Coast, the top-tier capitalists. They noticed Manton's gaze, smiled gracefully, and raised their glasses slightly. Upstairs and downstairs, on stage and in the crowd, Manton smiled. Everyone was on their side. Everything is in place. Chapter 93. It has turned. It really has turned. December. This month is incredibly uplifting for the nation. The prototype of controllable nuclear fusion has undergone repeated experiments within a month. if it weren't for the limitations of deuterium-tritium gas production. The Energy Department's results would indicate that controllable nuclear fusion could last for at least 70 years without failure or maintenance. To put it simply, it can run without issues for at least 70 years. Of course, this is contingent on sufficient fuel supply. As the saying goes, a skilled cook cannot make a meal without rice. Right now, there isn't enough fuel, and the controllable nuclear fusion reaction has to be halted. This has left the public feeling quite uncomfortable, itching with frustration. They can only watch, but not use it. Such a great treasure has finally been developed. Yet it sits idle due to insufficient fuel supply. Anyone would feel frustrated, wishing that the entire nation could switch to controllable nuclear fusion power immediately. Of course, this matter cannot be rushed. The matters regarding the industrial line are not urgent for the scientists involved in the project. They are simply trying to establish a separate production line for deuterium-tritium gas. As for why there is no rush, deuterium-tritium fusion is merely a temporary solution. Helium-3 fusion, including heavy fusion, is the technology we ultimately need to master. This is a directive personally given by the senior leader, who has emphasized multiple times in internal meetings. We aim to leverage the technology of our fellow citizens to quickly advance through the technology tree. Deuterium-tritium fusion is just the beginning and serves to broaden our horizons. Our ultimate goal is heavy fusion. Heavy fusion is incomparably better than deuterium-tritium fusion. The deuterium and tritium needed for deuterium-tritium fusion are available on Earth, albeit with some radiation. However, heavy fusion is different. A classic line from our fellow citizen states, heavy fusion is like burning rocks. Indeed, heavy fusion is about burning rocks. Heavy fusion is also a form of controllable nuclear fusion, but the elements involved are mostly located after hydrogen and before iron in the periodic table, requiring higher temperatures and pressures for fusion. Achieving heavy fusion technology will certainly be more challenging than our current technology. However, different paths can lead to the same goal. Both are forms of controllable nuclear fusion. Having mastered deuterium-tritium fusion, we can advance along this line with the help of our fellow citizens. The senior leader believes that it won't be long before we can master this technology. Furthermore, the most crucial point is that the cost of heavy fusion is cheaper. It utilizes elements like silicates and carbonates found in rocks for fusion. While the energy efficiency may be lower than that of light nuclear fusion, heavy nuclear fusion has an undeniable advantage that no one can refuse. It's cheap. The fuel costs are low. Therefore, currently, there are two distinctly different attitudes between the public and the officials. The public is asking, why hasn't the deuterium-tritium gas industrial line been established yet? When will controllable nuclear fusion be widely implemented? When will electricity prices drop? They are anxious and questioning. On the other hand, the officials, while not dismissive of deuterium-tritium fusion, seem somewhat indifferent. They clearly have access to more advanced helium-3 fusion, even heavy fusion. Why bother with mere deuterium-tritium fusion? If there are breakthroughs in technology, it should just be preserved in a museum. I deserve better. This might be what we call the troubles of happiness. We can still choose the method of controllable nuclear fusion. The Energy Department has never fought such a well-resourced battle. In this state of conflicted happiness, the Great Eastern Nation quietly welcomes visits from major oil-exporting countries. In the past, they boasted confidence due to their abundant resources. Now, they can only come to probe the depths of the Eastern Nation. Meanwhile, the major oil-exporting country is also bewildered. How did the Great Eastern Nation suddenly achieve controllable nuclear fusion? They didn't give me any time to react. I was just extorting Western Europe. Suddenly, they stabbed me in the back without a word. Of course, the business discussions are handled smoothly by the experienced Minister of Commerce. This is not the main point. On Christmas Day, the real highlight is that a certain state has revolted. It really has. The West Coast, consisting of 7 states, has formed an alliance known as the Alliance and organized a nationwide referendum to secede from the federal government and become independent. As soon as this news broke, the attention of the world shifted dramatically. It was simply too eye-catching, too sudden. The federal government was naturally shocked and furious, repeatedly questioning the alliance. The result was that the alliance completely ignored their inquiries, simply replying, "Everything will wait for the referendum results." Su Xing, a reporter from an eastern country, received the news and rushed to the state overnight. He is currently standing in the streets of the major city, introducing the situation to the public back home. I am now in Austin, the capital city of Texas. As you can see outside Central Park, crowds are lining up to vote. Additionally, on the main street of Austin, military tanks, which originally belonged to the 7th Armored Division, are on guard. Su Xing instructed the cameraman to subtly shift the camera. Sure enough, at the street corner, a tank was parked, with several fully armed soldiers patrolling. In the sky, fighter jets and helicopters occasionally flew low. A tense atmosphere enveloped the entire city of Austin. With the 2nd Fleet of the West Coast, stationed Air Force, and Coast Guard, as well as nuclear military facilities in Texas and nearby states, all expressing support for the alliance. A loud roar of engines passed overhead. Su Xing, feeling uncomfortable, covered his ears and shouted into the camera. The risk of division is rising infinitely. The federal troops have reached the state border. It's hard to imagine what will happen here next. However, I will remain on the front lines. I am Su Xing, and this report ends here. Noticing the soldiers approaching him, Su Xing quickly instructed the cameraman to turn off the camera. The live broadcast came to an end. In the studio, there was a long silence. Wow, is the country really going to split? Austin is the capital of Texas, right? This is real. The disintegration of the country. A huge change in Western Europe? Speaking of which, this sounds a bit familiar. Didn't this happen 30 years ago? Ha ha ha, it's true. My high school classmates studying abroad received warnings from the embassy and are now returning home. What great news. The country is about to split. Fred is calling out to Texas, visibly angry. Ha! Incredible, the last president of the country. They were quite arrogant before, but now, look, the country is falling apart. Correction. It's not gone, it's splitting in half. Go Alliance, let us see some fun. How do people from other countries view the division of the country? Ha ha, of course. They are sitting back and laughing. This is a century-esque great amusement. The last time this happened was over 30 years ago. Now, the Big Brother and the Eagle are about to meet underground. Chapter 94. The split is inevitable in a certain eastern capital. Fred was nearly beside himself with rage. The very thing he dreaded most had finally happened. The force of his anger caused him to flip over his entire desk. With a dark expression, he yelled hysterically. How dare they? How dare they? Where are the intelligence agencies? He demanded. Get those damned guys and make them pay. Your Excellency, Vano said from a safe distance. Letting out a sigh, the Texas Alliance has bribed all armed groups within the region and closed the state borders. If we rashly cross over, they might open fire. This situation was serious. The Texas Alliance was serious about their intentions. If we crossed the border carelessly, they could very well ignite conflict. Who would be responsible for starting a war on home soil? Vano certainly didn't want to take the blame for that. What should we do then? Fred roared, gasping for breath. Are we just going to let them grow stronger and secede? Our best course of action now is to disrupt their referendum, Vano explained, shaking his head. As long as the result of their vote is no, we have plenty of means to eliminate the leaders behind this. Fred narrowed his eyes. He calmed down. For now, the Texas Alliance possessed significant military power. A direct confrontation would lead to civil war, which was absolutely unacceptable. Therefore, Vano's suggestion was indeed the most effective method at this point. After thinking it through, Fred immediately agreed. All right, I leave this matter to you. Make sure to disrupt their results. I only care about the outcome. If this operation fails, you can expect a civil war. Understood. Vano exhaled. This time, they had to spare no effort. Success was the only option. In the temporary Parliament Hall of the Texas Alliance, the anxious temporary legislators looked at Manton, some worriedly asking, will this referendum succeed? They may be big capitalists, but it's hard to sway the votes of the majority. This time it will definitely succeed, Manton replied confidently. Standing at the podium of the hall, he exuded the demeanor of a victor, stretching his neck like a proud swan, and softly said, before we took action. Why did we actively shut down all factories? Why did we even send people to pose as unemployed individuals to randomly launch terror attacks on the streets? It's all for today. The result of the Texas referendum is assured. The people from the other 6 states have had enough of their lives during this period. They will cast their votes. Moreover, the most critical point is that we will definitely achieve the result we desire. Manton's eyes were deep, regardless of the number of votes. The final outcome could only be yes. This was his assertion. Since they had already taken action, they would go all out. Falsifying ballots would be a piece of cake. Fred probably still wants to interfere with our referendum results, but it's all in vain. Manton's eyes sparkled with excitement as he murmured. Even if more than 70% vote against it, I can still reverse the outcome. That's great. Upon hearing his words, everyone in the temporary assembly hall let out a sigh of relief. They just want the result. With the referendum results, they also have a reason. On Christmas Day, and even in the following days, there was no festive atmosphere in the region. On the contrary, due to the impending announcement of the referendum results, the overall mood grew increasingly tense. According to the live footage, the border of the alliance on the west coast had already begun to confront the central government. If the results do not align with one side's wishes, both parties are definitely on the brink of conflict. At the Texas border, in the village of Astorvar, Tommy's is a rancher from Texas. In recent years, he has grown increasingly dissatisfied with the central government. The policies over the past few years have severely harmed the interests of men like him. Moreover, all sorts of bizarre social issues have emerged. Are there really 120 genders? Not all residents can accept such absurdities. Those of them who are ordinary men are extremely averse to this. Therefore, upon hearing about the alliance, he did not hesitate to cast his vote in favor. The products from his farm are primarily sold to Asia. Business disruptions have already made things difficult for him. So, what does it matter to him whether it's a central government or not? Perhaps he could finally rid himself of those nonsensical things. There is only half an hour left until the referendum results are announced. Tommy's put down his pitchfork and eagerly ran to his room to turn on the television. On the screen, the temporary assembly hall of the alliance was being broadcasted. The recognized leader, Manton, stood on stage, conducting the final vote count. Friends who have fought for freedom. The central government has abandoned the old covenant. It is time for us to fight for our survival. Over the past 6 months, how many factories have closed? How many people have lost their jobs? Under the influence of the central government, how many absurd things have happened in our society? Do you all remember the Great Blackout in Texas? Our people were shivering in the cold. And what about the central government? Where's the promised aid? Even now, I have yet to see a trace of the help they promised back then. Is such a central government still worthy of our support? Manton spoke passionately, waving his arms excitedly. In the square, Texas residents gathered upon hearing the news. Mentioning that great blackout, everyone appeared fervent. They were the victims of that disaster. Independence, independence, independence. The central government can go to hell. We can live just fine without a central government. The crowd was filled with righteous anger. Watching this scene, a slight smirk appeared at the corner of Manton's mouth. The momentum has been established. Next comes the unveiling of the mystery. All right, everyone quiet down, quiet down. The host raised the voting device high and shouted loudly. Now, it's time for us to see the sacred choice made by the people of our alliance. Will we continue to endure the exploitation of the federal government? Or will we fight for our freedom? The result is about to be revealed. The camera zoomed in, and then zoomed in further. The focus was locked on the host's hand, on that voting machine. The excited Tommy stood up from the sofa. The host slowly pressed the final pause button on the voting machine. The scene suddenly shifted. The television displayed the final results. The establishment of the alliance received 746 votes in favor. The supporters won by an overwhelming majority. Great. We did it. Tommy excitedly waved his fist and shouted a loud yes. Amazing. Chapter 95. The flag fell in the cold wind. Breaking news. The alliance's referendum passed with an overwhelming majority of 746 votes in favor of independence. The moment this news broke, it spread across the world. In Texas, in the temporary Parliament Hall, members of the alliance's army personally climbed to the rooftop and took down the flag that was flying high in the wind. Then, the flag representing the alliance was raised high. The red, white, and blue flag, with a bright white star in the blue field, symbolizing the freedom of the people. The flag was raised high. The host, with a solemn expression in the Parliament Hall, officially announced to the world, from today on, the alliance is officially established. Everyone cheer. Victory belongs to us. Only to us. With the host's official announcement, the crowd in the square erupted in cheers. They had achieved victory. Damn it. In the White House, Fred swept everything off the table in anger. He glared at Vano beside him and shouted, Why? Why is the voting result like this? Where are the results we interfered with? Mr. President, with all due respect, we have used all means possible. And it seems that the host did not actually hold a genuine referendum. Vano immediately realized the issue. If they had intervened, the result should not have been an overwhelming victory for the other side. So the enemy had considered this from the beginning. The outcome of this referendum had been determined from the start. Damn it. No wonder they always talk about freedom and never mention democracy. Fred shouted angrily, his gaze gradually turning cold. Since the host has made a choice, then he must pay the price. Vano, mobilize all troops immediately. Put a high bounty on the host for treason. I want to see his head personally. Yes. Vano immediately agreed. Things had reached this point. War was inevitable. The internal conflict officially began. The first shot was fired at the Texas border on the night after the referendum results were announced. The military took the opportunity to invade Texas. However, the military of the alliance was already prepared. 2 waves of troops, equipped similarly and with comparable military training, engaged in a hard-fought battle in the Texas wilderness that lasted through the night. Since both sides were taught by the same master, it was unlikely that either could defeat the other in a short time. Warfare, after all, comes down to logistics and economics. Upon learning of the border clashes, the leader immediately convened the legislators to organize a response. The next day, stationed troops declared a mutiny, announcing their allegiance to the alliance. At the same time, several regions, including the local area, announced recognition of the alliance as an independent nation. The leader even engaged a mining company from another country as an intermediary to persuade a significant Eastern nation to reopen various economic and trade relations. This reopening of trade was crucial for the alliance, potentially determining the outcome of their war against the federal government. Therefore, the leader placed great importance on it, even willing to sacrifice some interests just to ensure that economic and trade activities could resume. Once operations began to function normally, leveraging the vast market of the Eastern nation would provide a continuous flow of resources. The federal government would surely face defeat. By then, they wouldn't be able to deny the alliance's existence. In another part of the world, an elder sat quietly in his office, listening to intelligence reports, which included a request for recognition from the alliance. What does the elder think of the alliance? The commerce minister glanced at the so-called request and chuckled lightly. We cannot directly recognize the alliance. The elder shook his head. The Eastern nation is a responsible major power, even if the enemy is divided. They must resolve their internal issues themselves. This translated to waiting until the alliance and the federal government exhaust each other before intervening. However, the elder thought they could give the alliance a glimmer of hope, as they still needed the research institute. With a cold smile, the elder prepared to take a leisurely stroll. The alliance would certainly receive some assistance, but it couldn't be unconditional. They needed to keep the alliance dependent on the Eastern nation without pushing too far. This balance needed careful handling. The elder was familiar with such matters, so he was entrusted with it. Leave it to me, the elder responded cheerfully. Digging a grave for the once mighty power was a task he was perfectly suited for. After arranging the aftermath for the former global power, they stared blankly at the television in the distance. On screen, familiar images played out, focusing on the flag of the once mighty nation. Meanwhile, the host solemnly announced, the nation has officially split. The camera showed the flag fluttering in the wind, slowly descending, followed by the flag symbolizing the alliance rising amidst a sacred melody. This scene was so familiar that it made the elder and the commerce minister feel as if they had returned to the end of 1991. The high-flying flag also slowly descends with the cold wind. History truly is a great cycle. Big brother, in this way, we can at least repay you for your past help. Under the birch tree, we have not forgotten our original aspirations. Zhu Lao murmurs. The flag falls. An era has completely ended. A generation of hegemony has come to a definitive close. The nation has truly fractured. Civil war. The alliance and the federal government have officially engaged in conflict, with armored groups appearing in the Texas desert. With the fall of a generation of hegemony and civil war, where will the history of this nation head? The Eastern Power is urgently carrying out evacuation operations, and the alliance agrees to let warships enter the nearby waters. A company visits the Commerce Department, requesting to reopen trade activities with the Western coast. Almost instantly, various news flooded the front pages of media around the world. This news is simply explosive. The nation that dominated the earth for a century has collapsed. This is even more shocking and terrifying than the dissolution of another major power. The entire